player called Copes versus a player called Beaster. Classic Rebels versus Imperials. As you can see, the deployment zones have been set out here and they're getting ready to deploy. That'll give us some time to do a quick overview of what exactly is going on with these different army lists. So, as I've mentioned in some of the previous Star Wars Legion broadcasts, Star Wars Legion's a miniatures game. Miniatures games have list building as a significant element of the gameplay. So we're seeing two lists that are actually quite similar, despite one being Imperials and one being Rebels. Both players have one commander, two heavy units, and four troop squads, three strong ones and one minimum one. Let's focus first on the Rebels. So the Rebels are fielding Leia Organa. So this is Princess Leia. She is a cheaper command option relative to Luke. She's not quite as good at fighting personally, but she has some nice support abilities. Her take cover ability lets you give up to two dodge tokens out. One can actually go to her if you want, or you can send both to other units. And even if you put one on her, you'll still have one left over for those other squads. So this is a strong ability for increasing the resilience of your troopers. Her Inspire 2 allows you to remove suppression tokens from friendly units at range 1 to 2. And she has Nimble, which means that her dodge token is not removed after she uses it. That helps her survivability. And she has Sharpshooter 2, which means that she ignores cover completely since the maximum cover is 2. She has surges on defense and surges to crits on offense, which is quite nice, but she only has the white defense die, which means that even with that surge, it's still not going to be as good as Imperial units with their red die. So overall, pretty strong damage output thanks to ignore cover and a point of pierce on that ranged weapon, but at the same time, not amazing defense, more of a support element than an individual fighter. So then we're going to take a look at there are two copies of the T-47 Airspeeder. This is the Rebel heavy unit from the initial release wave. So this unit has armor, which means only crits will affect it, hits will not affect it. It has Arsenal 2, so it can fire 2 weapons per turn. It has Cover 1, just naturally. It is immune to blast and melee because it is flying high above the field. And it has Speeder 2, so it ignores terrain that is height 2 or lower, and does perform a compulsory move when it first activates. So that's the T-47 Airspeeder, and it's equipped with a ranged weapon with 3 reds and 3 black dice, which is fixed front and impact 3. He's upgraded both these airspeeders with the AX-108 ground buzzer, providing 4 black dice that fire from its rear arc, and the long-range comlink, which allows them to be given orders even if they are not in range of the commander. Now this is an interesting set of upgrades. Basically what this means is these airspeeders can fire their main gun to the front while firing a weaker attack to the rear, which can deal some damage to and maybe suppress enemy infantry squads. So there's 2 of these airspeeders, both with the same equipment, and then 3 squads of Rebel fleet troopers. So Beaster has opted for the Fleet Troopers instead of the standard Rebel Troopers. The Fleet Troopers are only range 1 to 2, but they actually roll 2 white dice in ranged combat, and they have both attack and defense surges. The fact that they roll 2 white dice means they have much more firepower than other basic trooper squads. Furthermore, he's upgraded them with the Scattergun Trooper, which has 2 red dice and Pierce 1, also at range 1 to 2. And he has upgraded them with Targeting Scopes to give them Precise 1, and that lets their aim tokens reroll 3 dice instead of just 2. So there are 3 of these Fleet Trooper squads with that same upgrade profile. So these are like quite tooled up squads, quite powerful, but they'll have to get close in. And there's 1 Fleet Trooper squad with no upgrades. And this squad, might be used to claim a backfield objective or something. I have to say it might have been better to have a normal Rebel Trooper squad in that role, given that the normal Rebel Troopers are less expensive and have range 3. So even though their attack is weaker, if they do end up on a backfield objective, they are more likely to be able to shoot at the opponent. Alright, so that is what we see. That's what we see here for the Rebels. Now let's take a look over at the Imperial side. So taking a look at the Imperials here, they have General Veers, also kind of same role as Leia, really, a support commander. Not as good at fighting as Vader, but has some nice abilities. Leia can give out aim tokens to friendly units. Veers can give out, or Leia can give out dodge tokens. Veers can give out aim tokens. Veers also has a weaker version of Leia's Inspire and Sharpshooter abilities. He has only Inspire and Sharpshooter 1 instead of 2, but those are still useful abilities to have. So he can remove up to 1 suppression token from another friendly unit, and he can reduce a defender's cover by 1 instead of ignoring it. He also has Precise 1, same as the Stormtroopers, which means that he will roll, he can reroll 3 dice instead of just 2 from an aim token. And he has 3 white dice with Pierce 1, so again, kind of a downgraded version of Leia's attack with white dice instead of black dice, but the one advantage that he has is that his version does go from range 1 to 3 instead of just range 1 to 2. So again, kind of a support commander, not necessarily so powerful individually, but has some useful abilities to give to his guys. We then see 2 ATSTs. The ATST here is a heavy tanking unit, basically. It has the most health of anything in the game at 11. It also has armor, so it cancels those hit results. Only crits can affect it, or impact weapons, of course. It has Arsenal 2, like the Airspeeder. It can fire 2 of its weapons in a turn. It has a weak point to its rear. This might come into play given the high maneuverability of the Airspeeders. If you can get behind the ATST, your attack gains impact 1, giving it a little extra ability to pierce that armor. And then the ATST is equipped with the MS4 Twin Blaster Cannon with 2 reds, 2 blacks, 2 whites, impact 3 at range 1 to 4. It also has a fairly strong melee attack with 4 red dice. However, the ATST has defense surges and no attack surges, similar to the Airspeeder. Each of these ATSTs is the same, and it's been equipped with the ATST Mortar Launcher. This weapon does relatively bad damage with only 3 white dice. Without the attack surges, 3 white dice is not even a full hit in expectation. I believe that each white die has 1 hit, 1 crit on an 8-sided die, so each die has a 1 in 4 chance of generating a result, which means this gun is not necessarily the most reliable. It has minimum range of 4, but maximum range of infinity. It is fixed front, and it has suppressive, which means that even if you miss, the defender will gain a suppression token. So this weapon is very effective at putting suppression tokens on enemy units that are at long range. The goal with it is often to try to make units that are out of range of the commander panic, or to try to just put suppression on them and slow their advance. That could be especially useful against these rebel fleet troopers who have close range weapons and want to advance quite quickly in the early turns. So that could be nice. Then each of these ATSTs has also been equipped with the DW3 concussion grenade launcher with 2 black dice, range 1 to 2 only, fixed front, and blast. So blast allows this weapon to ignore cover. That's of course applied to the whole attack, so if you have both this and the main gun firing on a target, you will roll 2 red, 4 black, 2 white dice with blast. And that's very strong. However, the blast from this weapon won't be able to be used against those airspeeders to ignore their cover for the impact on the main gun, and the reason is that airspeeders aren't immune to blast. So, now you'll note that the ATST only has Arsenal 2, but each of these is equipped with 3 ranged weapons. That does mean that he won't be able to use all of his upgrades at once, but he does gain the benefit of some flexibility. Furthermore, the minimum range on the mortar launcher means that once the ATST gets close, it is often no longer relevant, so I suspect that perhaps he'll shoot the main gun at range 4 and the mortar launcher at range 4 during early turns. Then when they get close, he can fire the main gun and the grenade launcher, so he kind of has different weapons for different ranges and scenarios. In terms of his basic troops, he has 3 squads of stormtroopers, just classic basic unit, red defense die, white attack die, attack surges, and precise 1, they get to reroll 3 dice rather than 2 dice from an aim token. These stormtroopers have been upgraded with the extra trooper and with the DLT-19 strong heavy weapon, range 1 to 4, 2 red dice, and impact 1. So there are 3 stormtrooper squads with this exact configuration. That's providing kind of a solid base of troops. And then there is 1 snowtrooper squad with no upgrades. So snowtroopers have the same stats as stormtroopers, except that they are move 1 instead of 2. They do, however, have steady, which means after you perform a move, you can perform a free ranged attack action. And that unit is bare bones, so again, we might see this as a backfield objective claimer. So those are the 2 armies. They're actually really very similar. Both armies have a support commander, 2 heavy units, 3 basic trooper squads with upgrades, and 1 unupgraded basic trooper squad. We'll have to see which one prevails here. Overall, in my evaluation, I think I would give the edge to the Imperials, and the reason for that is that I think that generally speaking, the Airspeeder is not all that effective as a unit. I think it's highly vulnerable against armies that have a lot of impact weapons. And we do see this Imperial army having a lot of impact weapons. The ATSTs that are big impact threats, and the trooper squads with DLTs can provide kind of the death by 1,000 cuts approach. So I think that it will be difficult for the Rebel player to take down the ATSTs, even with focused fire from the airspeeders. But on the other hand, I think it's entirely conceivable that the Imperial player could take down an ATST with even one turn of sufficiently focused firing. And so for that reason, I think that the best option for the Rebel Trooper will be to try to activate his airspeeders late in the turn and move them up after the ATSTs have already gone and attack the ATSTs. Then next turn, you can put some more firepower on them and hopefully use the mobility of the airspeeder combined with a late activation order to limit the number of shots they can get on it in the first turn. Then on the second turn, try to activate them early and move into a position that makes it more difficult for them to concentrate their firepower. If the Imperials are allowed to concentrate their firepower on the airspeeders, I think the airspeeders are going to die very quickly. On the other hand, if the Imperials are unable to or make tactical mistakes that cause them to not concentrate their fire, I think the airspeeders will provide quite a problem. In terms of troopers, the Rebel troopers are much better than the Imperial troopers in like a head-to-head confrontation between the trooper squads, as far as I can tell. But the troopers, the Rebel troopers have very limited capacity against the ATSTs. They don't have any impact weapons, and they're very short-ranged. And the Imperial squads can contribute to the fight between the heavy units more with their DLT-19 heavy weapon, providing that impact 1 at range 1 to 4. So this weapon alone can kind of take pot shots at the airspeeders and maybe knock some health off them, whereas the Rebel troopers are going to be more limited in putting damage on the ATSTs. So we'll see which list prevails in this fight between the heavy units. It's going to be an interesting match. I have not broadcast a game of this type before. Nightcrawler says this isn't L5R. Sad face. Sorry to disappoint, Nightcrawlers. I do stream some other stuff sometimes. But we're gonna have more L5R content later on. Okay. So it looks like so we're seeing the deployments here. It looks like the Rebel player has concentrated his airspeeders on this left flank here. That's a smart idea. I think that what you want to do with these is get them on one side of the battlefield so that some of the enemy forces will be out of range or like otherwise unable to disengage or unable to engage. It also means that once you get into the enemy lines, you're more likely to be in a position where you can engage one enemy unit with your front arc and one enemy unit with this ground buzzer that fires from the rear arc. It looks like the Imperial player is going for kind of a central position of his ATSTs. This is okay, but it does potentially mean that the Rebel player could concentrate his forces on one of the ATSTs, try to take it down, and then maneuver to engage the second one, or switch to engaging the troops. So I do think this deployment is probably a little bit favored for the Rebels. The one thing that I'll say is I actually would have preferred to see this airspeeder even further on this flank, maybe directly behind this airspeeder or at the spot where these troopers are presently. These troopers have been deployed quite badly in my view because they're in difficult terrain that will slow them down to range 1. Because these troopers have range 1 to 2 only, you want them to be like firing as soon as possible and moving up quickly in the first turn, which means that I would have preferred to see them deployed outside of this cover. I don't think they're likely to take shots in the first turn and then just move up later on. So it looks like they've finished deploying. Let's take a quick look at the scenario. So we're seeing sabotage the moisture evaporators. This looks complex, but it's actually easy. The way that this works is that there are 4 objectives which each start out with 2 wound markers on them. If you put your trooper units in base contact with the objective, you can spend an action to remove a wound marker, and one player to add or remove a wound marker. One player wants to put more damage on them and gets points at the end for, you basically get 1 point for each damage that has been put on one of the markers above the 2 that it starts with, and the other player gets 1 point for each damage that has been cleared from a marker below the 2 that it starts with. So at the end, let's say that they all have 2 except one has 1. That would indicate the player whose job was to remove damage had won with 1 point. This objective is interesting in that you can start accomplishing it early on during the game, and it quite favors troopers in that they're the only ones who can actually do the objective, and They can do the objective starting earlier on, which does indicate that you can amass kind of a lead if you're paying more attention to the objectives than your opponent, and make it hard for them to come back. So normally in this scenario, what I try to do is put my 2 objectives close to my deployment zone, move 2 trooper units onto each in the first turn, and just completely sabotage or completely repair with 1 action from each trooper squad, because that I find puts a lot of pressure on in terms of now my units are free to move up and attack. If the opponent hasn't done the same thing, they're now forced to decide between doing their objective or confronting my units. Anyway, so that's the scenario. The deployment is the Long March, aka the Short Edge deployment. This does increase the range between the 2 armies, which is favorable for the Imperial player since he has longer ranged units. And the conditions are Minefield. It's not fully understood how this card works yet, but basically there is a chance that any non-repulsor unit, aka everything on the board except for the air speeders, can trigger these mines. And if you trigger the mines, you roll a red defense die. On a block, you take a red die and a black die with blast and impact 1 and surge to crit. On a crit, you take that same attack twice. So that's just a little bit of danger for the early engagement. And zooming out here, so here's one of the objectives, here's one of the objectives, here are the other 2 objectives, and the mines are these condition tokens. There's 1 here, and 1 on each of these Imperial objectives. So I have to say the Rebel player has a much, much, much more favorable deployment for these Vaporators. I don't know why the Imperial player has chosen to put 1 here. The Rebels should be able to move up and clear this one relatively easily, and move up and clear this one relatively easily. The Imperials can move and clear this one relatively easily, but will have to move much further up and potentially get in range before they deal with that one. So that's going to be a difficult scenario. Alright, so early cards have come out. The Imperial player has chosen Assault, and the Rebel player has chosen Standing Orders. This, again, probably gives the advantage to the Rebel player. And the reason that I say that is, with these armies, you really want to stall. And they have the same number of units. So the Rebel player has ensured that he will have the second activation. Now, the advantage for the Imperial player is there's a chance the Rebel player will get unlucky and will have to move up this airspeeder before he wants to. And if that's the case, that would favor the Imperials, as he would then be forced to play quite conservatively with that airspeeder. Or risk being focus fired. But I think that overall you do really want to go second here. So I think the Rebel decision to go with Standing Orders does make sense. It also means, of course, the Standing Orders card is the worst card in a certain respect, but it's the slowest, and it does return to your hand. And so because it does return to your hand, that does mean that the Rebel player will have this option again in the future. Whereas the Imperial player has permanently spent one of their cards that has numbers on it that are useful. Biggin says this game is going to be interesting. Kawajiri Kira says can't hang around for the entire stream today, but we'll watch the VOD later tonight. That's cool, man. Thanks for checking it out. Yeah, Biggins, you what's your thought on this? I know you've been playing a Rebel list similar to my list, and you've actually been having quite a lot of success. So we've both been playing in this same league, and we've been using a list where you have both Luke and Leia, 2 ATRTs, and then 5 Rebel Trooper squads. And Biggins 13, aka Riggins, in the online league and Discord, has actually, I believe, just beaten my overall record for first place overall. So we both won all of our games in group, but he scored more objectives while doing so. So as a, I don't know, somewhat experienced and successful Rebel player, Biggins, I'm curious as to what you think of this Rebel list and what you think their odds are against the dual ATSTs. I will say that one tactic that has been effective against dual ATSTs in the previous game that I actually streamed with Biggins was simply not focusing very much on them, letting them do a lot of damage, and focusing on killing the Imperial troopers and claiming the objectives. But I don't think that strategy is going to be as available here. Maybe it will. I don't know. It's possible that he could focus down the troopers. His fleet troopers have a ton of firepower up close, and he could focus his airspeeders on the troopers here and just try to wipe them out. We have seen the first Imperial activation is pretty low impact. It is a move up and then immediately a dodge. And it looks like the rebels are doing the same thing. So they're moving up that squad and then dodging. I have to say I don't think that's the right spot to be moving them. I would beeline that unit straight for the objective down here. This unit should also be triggering the mine as they are within range, but I think maybe they have forgotten this. I should add that, you know, this game is pretty early on, and unfortunately the league rules do prevent me from correcting or commenting to the players directly on mistakes. So it's quite possible that we're going to see some rules mistakes during this game. I will try to call those out when I see them, but because of the league policy, I am not. There's not like active streaming or judging in the same way that there is in the L5R league at present. Okay, so now we're seeing. So now we're seeing. It looks like the Imperial Snowtroopers are moving up. Okay, so the snowtroopers are moving up, and they are moving within range 1 of the mine. Let's see if it goes off, and if so, whether or not the snowtroopers take any damage. It's also so some of the rules on the mine are unclear. So in particular, there's an ambiguity as to whether or not the mine token is actually removed on the result of a hit. It says on a hit result, the condition token detonates, semicolon. On a crit result, it detonates twice before being removed, or on a surge result. The question is whether before being removed refers to the question is whether or not it is removed on a hit or only on a surge, or on a block or only on a surge. All right, so they roll it. They do see a hit, so it looks like those guys will be taking some damage. Or maybe not. Maybe something's wrong here. There we go. Blank. Okay, so there was something wrong with the dice roller. It wasn't rolling, and then it looks like the snowtroopers did not take damage from that first area. But if they move again to get up to that vaporator, they will potentially trigger the mine again. Looks like that's what they're doing. So this is also a bit of an error, I believe. A little known fact is that you can actually get into base contact with your non-squad leader for this one. Most missions in this game require base contact with the squad leader, but this one just says if you are in base contact. It could be any model in the squad. So for that reason, this unit could actually deploy with one of their models over here in coherency with the squad leader and use that to immediately take one off the objective. That's usually my tactic with this mission, in fact. But it looks like maybe he doesn't realize that or isn't taking that, because he is taking a second move to get closer to it. Mine does not go off yet again, so those are some lucky snowtroopers there. But honestly, the mine impact is kind of minimal anyway. It would be 1 black and 1 red. You know, even if that kills 2 guys, this squad is probably going to be sitting back on the objective. They're on the other flank from the airspeeder, so they're not at risk of being focus fired, and they are in cover. I wouldn't be too worried, especially given that the Rebel player has chosen to go for those fleet troopers with range 1 to 2 instead of the longer ranged Rebel troopers who have a less powerful attack but do fire out to range 1 to 3. Okay, so we've seen the first 2 Imperial activations. The Rebels now draw a card. Let's see what they get. A trooper squad, nice. So the Rebel player really does want to draw his airspeeder as late in the game as possible. He wants to use that stall that he gets from being the second player to activate to force the Imperial player to use more of the units that threaten those airspeeders, which is to say the AT-STs and the trooper squads, the normal stormtrooper squads with their DLT-19s. The snowtroopers are not a major threat, but the snowtroopers are not a major threat to the airspeeders, but the normal stormtroopers can do at least some damage. So the rebel player really wants to kind of draw out the clock on this one, and have his stuff take their time. Okay, so we're seeing the rebel troopers there moving out of the forest to move towards the objective, and we'll see whether or not the rebel player knows that you can use a non-squad leader. So they are. Yeah, so I'm listening to the players on voice, and one of them just said incorrectly that the leader has to be in base to do the objective. It doesn't matter where the troopers are. That's true for most objectives. It's not true for this objective, unfortunately. So that does mean that this squad is going to kind of waste their time. They're probably going to use another move action to get up to onto the objective directly, which is kind of a waste. Looks like they're checking some attack ranges. They're definitely going to be out of range. They only have range 2. Yeah, so these troopers can only shoot up to here. The snow troopers are themselves out of range. So they take a dodge. This is wrong in my view. The dodge action is generally weak if you're unlikely to be shot at, and right now there's little incentive to shoot. These guys could move up and fire their DLT at long range, and it would go through cover anyway. So the dodge does mean that you would have both cover and dodge, but I would personally just put one of the normal troopers in base contact there and use your second action to clear a point there. Got to get started on these objectives early. Or, I understand that they believe that it has to be the squad leader. If that's the case, put the squad leader on there and get ready to clear the objective next turn. You want to get those objectives resolved as soon as possible. Biggins comments that it depends on the initial engagement for these lists. If the first airspeeder is forced to move and get shot at by the ATSTs, it could potentially be GG. However, getting fleet troopers in range is going to be tough. Yeah, this is a pretty open board. This isn't really the map that I would want to use fleet troopers on most. I think that the fleet troopers tend to do better in denser terrain because their short range but very powerful attack really benefits when the terrain allows you to kind of sneak up on your opponent. I'm actually assembling some of the physical Star Wars Legion models as I do this stream, so it's pretty cool. All right, well, it does look like the Imperial player is doing that long range shot, so maybe we'll see that dodge token paying off. The normal guns are out of range, so it's just the 2 red dice from the DLT-19. Now I have to say, where's Princess Leia? Where's Leia? I'm trying to figure out where Leia was deployed. Hopefully she was deployed centrally. If she was, okay, so she's over here. This unit actually might be at risk of getting panicked next turn. Wow, so despite taking that dodge token, a rebel trooper is still picked off because the Imperials roll a crit which ignores cover and dodge. I have to say this was also a bad deployment for one other reason. Put in a trooper here, that guy was barely in range and then got picked off by shooting. You shouldn't put a model somewhere like that. You should put your troopers behind your squad leader whenever possible to make it so that you're not giving your opponents free shots. Because you measure range from your squad leader, so your squad leader can be considered the forefront of your squad's shooting capacity. However, enemies measure range to any model in the squad. So you should always keep your squad leader first if possible, or you're giving your opponent a ranged advantage. There are some exceptions, especially in situations where you need to put guys forward for line of sight or for cover. But generally speaking, you should put your troopers behind your squad leader, at least in more open terrain, as we're seeing here. So, if he had put guys if he had put guys behind and spent his second action to move up, he wouldn't have had to take this dodge token, which proved not to do anything anyway, and the enemies wouldn't even have been able to shoot at him. In addition, he'd be in a better position to do the objective next turn, or if they realize that it doesn't have to be the squad leader, he could have already started clearing the objective. Alright, and it looks like, oh, bad luck there. The airspeeder comes out. So he's going to have to move this airspeeder up sooner than he wants to, and potentially expose it to some serious firepower from the Imperials, as the Imperials still have... Yeah, the Imperials still have one trooper squad with a DLT and both ATSTs remaining. So it's a spot of bad luck there for the Rebels. They would definitely prefer to be activating that unit a bit later on. So it does its compulsory move at speed 3, moving up on the field. And looks like it's taking another move, so he's going head on against these Imperials. The question now is going to be what the target for this shooting is. Is he going to focus on killing Imperial troopers, or is he going to try to attack their ATSTs? That's really going to be indicative, I think, of the overall strategy that the Rebel player has chosen this game. So he's done compulsory move and a move. He now measures range. He's not in range of the ATSTs, so it's got to be the troopers. So as we can see from his position, these guys are not really obscured. So he could shoot at these guys, or he could shoot at these guys. These guys are a worse target because they have a dodge token, and they have already activated. He should fire here because this unit has not activated yet. so suppressing them will do something, and furthermore, that unit doesn't have cover. So firing here, you know, you look from the highest point over the center model, and looking at this, this league is using the 50% cover rule. There's been an email from Alex Davies saying they're going to errata the rules reference guide and change the way this works. But I believe that even under the new rules, this unit would not have cover, as only these 3 models are conceivably even kind of covered. And this model, no. This model, no. The model back there, no. And I think that this one probably doesn't have it center to center, though I'm not sure. In any case, under the rules being used in this league, that unit does not have cover. Biggin says that the fleet troopers are really good on the Hoth map. Yeah, I agree. I think there's a Hoth map that's more it's more enclosed. There's more line of sight blocking terrain. Also, the Tatooine map has some more line of sight blocking terrain. And in those situations where you can use the line of sight blocking terrain to sneak up, those fleet troopers are, I think, significantly more effective. Okay, so we're seeing the initial shooting here, and we're seeing 3 hits, 2 surges, but the airspeeder doesn't have surge to hit, so that's just going to be 3 hits on those stormtroopers. Oh, and bizarrely, it seems like he's chosen to shoot the yellow troopers, and they're using a dodge. That's a big mistake from the rebel player. There's no reason to shoot this squad. Oh, it looks like actually he changed it. So the first 2 dice are saved, and he's going to roll a 3rd die for that squad. Looks like that one failed. That one failed. So 1 trooper is removed from that squad. They incorrectly are removing 2, even though 2 were blocked. Hopefully they're going to catch that. This is a little embarrassing. Okay, it looks like they've caught it, so they're only removing 1. That unit should also now take a suppression, but a little lackluster from that airspeeder with its first attack. I think moving this far up and killing only a single Imperial trooper cannot be what the rebel player was hoping for this airspeeder, especially because it activated this early in the turn. So we do see there will be a suppression. That it looks like maybe they've forgotten the suppression token. Hard to say, but oh no, there we go. Okay, so that unit's suppressed. That does mean they have a chance to only get 1 action, which will somewhat mitigate their next attack. So the thing about suppression is that usually the most impactful thing your unit is going to do is take an attack action. So losing 1 action only eliminates a little bit of the effectiveness. Like, it prevents the opponent from aiming, or it prevents the opponent from dodging. But their main action, which will usually either be to move or attack, is maintained. So suppression and ion don't lock the opponent down as much as you might think. However, in this scenario, it's actually quite good, because under normal circumstances, these troopers would want to be advancing towards that Vaporator, which was deployed a little far up. So it looks like those troopers who just got shot are being activated. Let's see if they can clear their suppression. This is an error, by the way. He should activate Veers first and use his Inspire to clear the suppression automatically. But he does get lucky. 1 in 3 shot to clear the suppression, and he gets it. So the activation order mistake there is not going to be too impactful on the Empire. So this unit could stand here and aim and shoot the speeder. It could perhaps move instead. We'll have to see what they do. Looks like he's going for focus fire. He's going to aim and shoot the airspeeder. This is probably a good move. It does delay your attack on this objective, but I think if the Imperials can focus down the airspeeders, they'll have a dominant board. So right now, this squad and the 2 ATSTs can both focus this airspeeder. They actually have a chance to kill it this turn. Alright, so 4 white dice, that's incorrect, and it should be 5 white dice, I think. Does that squad? Oh no, 1 guy died. I'm wrong. Alright, so we do see 1 crit, 2... 2 hits. Yeah, so 1 crit, 2 hits, and so that does mean that they have enough hits to get through the cover, so that's going to be 2 crits already, 1 base, 1 from impact, and they're rolling to see if they can generate more crits. They cannot. So that's going to be 1 crit and then 1 more crit from impact. So he'll have to roll 2 white defense dice. So we're seeing here there's going to be 1 crit base. Of the other hits, 1 of them gets turned into a crit thanks to impact 1, and the other ones get ignored because of that cover. The airspeeder, or because of the armor, rather. So with 2 getting through, that does mean that the airspeeder is going to have to take 2 white defense dice. It does have defense surges. Looks like they're just doing the surge conversions there. They're moving those dice to indicate that the surges have turned into hits. So then cover... I don't know why they're doing it in this kind of drawn-out way, but one of the hits is then ignored by cover. So then there's 2 hits, 1 crit. There's only impact 1 on this attack. 1 of the hits becomes a crit. That means 2 crits. The other hit is ignored by armor. So 2 crits, 2 white defense dice being rolled for the airspeeder, and he fails both. Bad start for this airspeeder. It actually took more damage than it was able to dish out to those troopers. So the airspeeder only has 7 HP, and that means that there really is a high chance that this airspeeder is going to get taken down, as those ATSTs can fire on it as well. And I have to say, I think he was altogether too aggressive with his maneuvering with this airspeeder. I think that's not what you want to do. And it put them in I think an unsafe position, which will likely now lead to it being focused down. We'll have to see how that goes, but I do think this was a strange. I think it was strange to move up again. I would have just moved once. Maybe you're in range of these guys, maybe not. If you're not, you just dodge. You just got to mitigate the opportunity to get focus fired. And the firepower here was just not effective. Another option is to do a smaller move that takes you just to the edge of being in range of this squad. You don't have to move your full distance on the on a non-compulsory move. It's just the compulsory move where you have to move the full distance. So if they had taken a shorter move, that could have also been a little more conservative. We're now seeing Leia activate. Leia probably wants to move up and in this direction. She needs to be within range 3 of this squad, and the reason that I say that is because this squad is at risk of getting panicked off the board. They already have 1 suppression. The ATSTs can fire their mortar launchers at that unit while firing the main gun at that unit. The mortar launchers will put at least 2 more suppression and likely 3 or 4 suppression on there, and that could be used to cause this unit to run off the board next turn if Leia's not within range 3. Looks like he's headed the wrong way. Leia is not within range 3. And as a result of that, I do think if the Imperial player plays well, we could see him in a dominant position even after this first turn. So the Imperial player here should have his ATSTs focus their fire on that airspeeder. Quite likely they can actually bring it down. And at the same time, they should fire their mortars at the rebels that have been left kind of off on the flank and try to put enough suppression on them that next turn they will panic, move towards the nearest board edge. That's the nearest board edge. If they leave the board, they're dead. So that could be a huge blow to the rebels, losing both one of their heavy units and one of their highly upgraded trooper squads on the first turn. Well, I guess it would really be the second turn when the other unit would activate and maybe panic. But I think that would be very strong for the Empire. So we'll see whether or not We'll see whether or not they can escape. One thing that the rebel player could have done to mitigate that would have been to move Leia more in this direction. Another thing that he could have done to mitigate that would be to move one of these troopers to like maximum coherency over here, which would significantly extend the range at which Leia can get that unit her courage boost. Biggins13 says, put everything into the speeder, just kill it. The ATST with double aim should destroy it. Yep, exactly right. This is a big mistake by the rebel player. So Veers should use his action to give an aim token to each ATST, which he has now done, and then he should move. He is incorrectly moving 2, even though he's in these craters. Oh, looks like they've realized it. He's moving 1 now. So he's actually staying pretty far back. That's reasonable. You know, there's an argument for moving up and using him to try to clear these things, but I think that having him stand back and give aim tokens to the ATSTs is a good idea. The ATSTs here each have an aim token. What they should do is take another aim token and shoot with 2. You can use 2 different aim tokens on the same attack, giving them a lot of rerolls. And even if that isn't necessary, the rerolls can be used on those mortars to try to get these guys off the field. Really, it does look like a grim situation for the rebels after these first moves, thanks to, I don't know, they did have some slightly bad luck against these troopers. On average, that attack kills 2 troopers instead of 1, but killing another Imperial trooper would not make this situation that much better. I think that really there have been some errors, and so this unit's moving at speed 2. That's wrong. They should be moving speed 1 since they are in the difficult terrain. I do think that the rebels should have been more conservative with this airspeeder, and I think unfortunately it's going to pay for that mistake. We'll have to see whether or not that comes out. But in general, the airspeeder may be a heavy unit and it may have armor, but it is very much not a tanky unit in the way that one might expect, especially when you're playing against Imperial players, as Imperial armies tend to have more impact, thanks to basically all the Imperial units that are normally used, except for snow. Okay, so snow troopers don't have impact. Veers doesn't have impact, but normal troopers have impact. ATSTs have impact. Speeder bikes have impact. Normal troopers don't have impact by default, of course, but they have impact when you take the DLT, which you should. So normal troopers have impact. Vader has impact. Veers has impact with his artillery strike. ATSTs have impact. Speeder bikes have impact. A lot of impact in Imperial lists, and for that reason, these airspeeders aren't as safe as you might think. Ooh, the rebel troopers move up, and in a stroke of bad luck, they hit the surge, which means that mine is going to blow up twice against them for 2 blacks and 2 reds. Let's see what damage that mine will do. With 2 blacks and 2 reds. It does clear the mine, so that does mean the rebels won't have to worry about that for the future, but certainly I don't think they were hoping to take the double effect here. And the mines do have attack surges as well. So it looks like they're not rolling enough dice. Should be 2 blacks and 2 reds. There we go. There's the other red die. Alright, rolling up the mines. The mines only get 1 surge. Real stroke of luck for the rebels. Even they do have to roll 1 save, since it does convert to a crit. But the mines rolled well above average after that surge. The rebels don't save it, though, so they will lose a fleet trooper from the landmine condition. Looks like... Yeah, so it looks like just 1 trooper's removed. They haven't removed the mine token. That might be a mistake. But we'll see. They add a suppression token to that unit, which I think is incorrect, though it's unclear. It's currently disputed in addition to whether or not the mine token is removed on a hit that isn't a surge. It's disputed whether or not this suppresses you. The term detonates is not currently defined in the rules, and for that reason it is a little unclear how exactly to work this thing. Alright, so we see an ATST activating. If this ATST is within range 4 of the airspeeder, which I believe it was, it should probably aim again and fire. It looks like it is. So I think the best move here for the Imperials is to aim again, fire the main gun at the airspeeder, and fire the mortar at these guys. Once this other mortar also fires at those guys, ideally you've put 5 suppression tokens on them. 1 gets cleared at the start of the turn, but they still have 4 and are not in range of Leia, which puts them in desperate trouble. He's choosing to move up instead. That does mean that he's going to have to forgo using a second aim token. I'm not sure why you would do this since they're already in quite a good firing position. Maybe he does want to exert more pressure on those objectives. But personally, I don't know. I think while this scenario does allow you to do the objectives early on, it's also often strong to just do damage to your opponent, especially in a situation like this where the rebel player has moved into an unsafe position. And because of the unsafe position, I do think it means that because of the unsafe position, I do think that it means that the Imperial should just focus on killing. All right, so we are seeing the correct focus fire, though, I believe. The mortar's being fired over here and the main gun over here. The only thing is that he should have taken a second aim token instead of moving, I believe, that as this attack would be legal without the move. Mortar's coming out first of that squad that's been kind of abandoned up top by the rebels. Coming up with one hit. Hit will be ignored due to cover, but that does give them 2 suppressions. Looks like they're rolling for that. That's totally wrong. They have cover and a dodge. They should not roll a save here. They make the save anyway, but that's not something that you need to do at all. As they have a dodge token and they have suppression 1. Having a suppression token gives you cover 1. So that unit does take 2 more suppression. They now have 3. And we're seeing here. Looks like we still have that main gun against the airspeeder. The rebels need to get some luck here to stay in this game, I feel. As they've moved into a very, very risky spot, and I think it's quite possible the airspeeder will actually be killed this turn by the focus fire from these 2 ATSTs, as these attacks are using the powerful ATST main gun with impact 3. Alright, so we're seeing some shooting here. Looks like he gets 3 hits, so that would only result in 2 because the airspeeder's cover 1 would save 1, but there is that aim token. So the aim token can be spent for 2 rerolls, hopefully adding another hit. Looks like he forgot about the aim token, but the rebel player's incorrectly rolling 3 saves. He seems to have forgot. Oh no, okay, there's the aim token coming up. Aim token adds a crit and a hit. Very lucky. So that actually means that the rebel player is going to need to roll 4 saves since the extra hit covers the cover and the crit just gets through. 4 saves for that airspeeder, and only 1 of them passes. So it's now taken 5 wounds. That's going to give it a damage result. As we can see, it only has 2 wounds left, and I think that other ATST is going to be able to finish it off. It's perhaps fitting that I'm assembling some stormtroopers as I'm playing this, because this game looks like it's really favored for the Empire at present. However, we have seen some cool comebacks in this game before. You know, there have been situations where one player looks like they're in a lot of trouble, but they managed to pull it out. And I think in this game, we'll see whether or not they can do the same thing. Those fleet troopers are very lethal if they can get up close. So perhaps, even if the rebel player loses the vehicle war, perhaps he'll be able to use his infantry to defeat the opponent, as the infantry are more relevant for the objectives, and the Imperial player has likely misdeployed one of his objectives in a spot that's going to be a little unsafe. Okay, so the speeder rolls for vehicle damage. The way this works is you roll a red defense die, and there's different results for block, blank, or surge. So they get a block, which is disabled. Disabled means that you have to spend 2 actions to take a move, but it's still only 1 action to pivot, and it doesn't affect your compulsory move. So the disabled result honestly scarcely affects the airspeeder in a lot of situations, which means that this is probably the best thing that they could have rolled. The worst would have been weapon destroyed, because removing the airspeeder's made gun would be critically bad. Incidentally, I think that there's a strong argument for both players using their artillery on this turn instead of using the cards that they did use. The downside is the artillery is priority 1, and you actually want to activate 2nd this turn. So there is an argument for not doing it, but it could have been quite impactful from both sides, really. Leia has 3 artillery strikes that are 2 red dice each against different units at range 4 to infinity. Veers has 1 artillery strike at range 4 to infinity with, I believe, 4 red dice and impact 2. Both are immune to deflect, though there are no deflect units on the board. Alright, the other airspeeder is now moving up. That's again quite premature in my view. Not entirely sure what's going on there. I would hold off, but I guess I guess the Imperials are likely going to be focus firing on the damaged airspeeder anyway. So at this point, moving the other one up doesn't necessarily expose them to that much more risk. The only problem is I'm not sure what he's moving up for. Looks like he's taking that second move. Coming in at a wide angle here. Not altogether sure this is a great move. Yeah, I'm not so sure about this. I guess he's going to shoot at these troopers, and then next turn he'll hook around and shoot at that ATST. That could potentially let him dodge the arc of that ATST. I guess it's not that bad. Looks like he's reconsidering, though. The problem is just that these airspeeders don't have very good targets. So it looks like he's decided maybe he's going to go the other direction. Hard to say exactly what the move is here. He's actually just taking a pivot. Okay, so he's just pivoting. He should be moving instead with a shorter range, in my view, and then taking shots at those guys. So yeah, for his second action, he's just going to pivot. Don't think this is wise. I do think this is going to mean that he won't get shots in this turn where he otherwise could have. This is also an illegal placement. He's on top of another model's base. He's on top of this terrain. But so he has another action, but I guess it's just wasted. Maybe he'll dodge or something. It doesn't really matter. I think this player may have actually forgotten that he had another action after the compulsory move, as it looks like he's maybe trying to reactivate it at this time. Yeah, so this, Biggins points out this should be considered displacing. It should, as he is over that rebel trooper, but it seems they may have forgotten that. I'm not altogether sure what's going on there. Alright, so they're reactivating it. It looks like now he is going to take a move, maybe now that he's realized that he can shoot afterwards. So we will perhaps see this airspeeder taking some shots on this turn, though I'm not sure. So it does look like maybe he's going to go over here and shoot at those guys. A little hard to say exactly what's going on here. Might be going here, might be going there. He could use a smaller movement template if he wants to now, given that it's no longer his compulsory move. The compulsory move has to be taken at maximum move speed, but other ones do not. Alright, so he does that wide move that we were discussing earlier, and now probably he'll shoot at this unit since they're the only target in arc. Yeah, it looks like, okay, so they do clear the base. Yeah, so he could be a little more to this side and probably should be. He just needs to make sure he has arc. So it's a little unclear what exactly he's going for here. He does have a little bit of extra space. So this airspeeder is, so looking at the arc, you know, if we draw the line like this, I'm not actually sure if he has arc in this position. So he should try to turn a little bit more. He does have space to do it. It looks like, once again, he's forgotten that last action. Or maybe he's going to pivot with this last action. I don't know. This guy is not flying the airspeeders optimally, unfortunately. The airspeeder is kind of a weak unit to begin with, and I think if you don't manage it as effectively as possible, you really do end up at a substantial downside. Unfortunately, that may be what we're seeing here. So yeah, so he I guess has forgotten that action, or maybe he pivoted or something instead. Really a little unclear what he was going for, but it wasn't, I think, the move that he needed to be making. with that airspeeder. So this ATST is also moving up, which I think is wrong. So looking from his perspective here, so currently he can see those guys over there. You can see from the top of the ATST, he can see these guys. But if he were to move up a bit, if he were to move up far, he wouldn't be able to see them anymore because of this train in the center. So hopefully he's not going to move up all that far. So he's also displacing his own troopers here. I don't know why he's doing this. It doesn't really make sense to move at all. He should just aim again and shoot with 2 aim tokens, but he may not realize you can do that. So he's moved to about here, and he can still see some of those rebels. That's fine. He didn't take the full move. Maybe he's decided not to move. It's hard to say. So the league rules do require you to move if you're first. If you take out the movement template, this is incorrect in terms of how the rules overall are, but it's in the league packet. So he's firing his main gun at the uninjured speeder. And he's firing the mortar at these blue guys. So that is, I think, a mistake. Maybe he's hoping to kill the damaged one with Veers' artillery strike. That might make sense. But, so attacking the damaged... so he fires the mortar over here. That mortar should be going over there. So he gets lucky and rolls a crit, which means that it goes through the 2 dodge tokens that this rebel trooper has, one from itself, one from Leia. Putting 2 dodge tokens on that unit was an error, but they make the save with a defense surge. They do, however, take 2 suppression tokens. Luckily for them, Leia's there to potentially remove suppression next turn. I do think it was a mistake to shoot there. If he had concentrated on this unit up here, that would have put them at risk for running off the board, at much more substantial risk. And now he's firing on the pink airspeeder, which moved forward in an imprudent fashion. I think he also just wasted his second action. I'm not sure. I don't think he aimed again. 1 crit, 1 hit. So that's going to be only 1 result because the hit will be saved by cover unless he spends that aim token. Better spend that aim token. You should... So in this situation, he should reroll the red surge since it doesn't do anything yet. Looks like that's what he's doing. Rerolling a red and a black, trying to get more hits or crits. He gets 1 more hit, so that does mean that it will be 2 crits in total. So that's going to be... Yeah, so this is impact 3, but one of the hits is saved by cover, so there's only 2. I have to say, this is really just showing it would have been nice to have 4 rerolls instead of 2 there, but he did not take that aim. Does take 2 wounds, though. Bad saves for the airspeeder. And that does mean that this airspeeder has now taken 2 wounds, so if that had been on the other airspeeder, it would have been taken down. But perhaps he's thinking that he'll be able to take down the airspeeder with Veers' artillery next turn, and therefore he doesn't need to put more shots in it this time. I personally would do it anyway, just because there's the chance. Veers' artillery is only impact 2. There's a chance that you only get 2 hits. That guy has 2 wounds left, and he saves 1. There's not that bad a chance of that. And if something like that happens, it could leave you in the lurch in terms of, oh, you know, I thought I was going to take this guy down, but actually he got an attack in on one of my ATSTs or troop squads in the open, which could go quite badly. So we're seeing another Rebel Trooper squad move up. For some reason, they're not moving to the objective. I do think that the players are not playing the objectives very well here. This is an objective-based game, and looks like he's changed his mind, going straight for the objective. So the mine goes off, black and a red. They do have a dodge token, which will allow them to prevent one of these hits if they do get any hits and not crits. 1 hit, 1 crit. Dodge token should save 1, so that's one white defense die, thanks to that dodge token. The mines are actually much worse for Imperials than they are for Rebels, because Rebels get benefits from the dodge token, and the dodge token can be very useful for advancing into the mines. It's strange. I don't understand how you dodge a mine, but as we can see, it pays off. The dodge token clears one of the hits. The other hit is saved, and the minefield is removed. Alright, so after this first turn, what we've seen here is a few rebel troopers died, I believe. Yeah, 2 rebel troopers died, 1 stormtrooper died, but then we saw large damage going onto those rebel airspeeders. A total of 7 damage, though it was split across 2 of them. That's put the rebel player, he's taken way more damage on this first turn, and I think he's at a big disadvantage overall. Even though I think both players have not been like making what I would consider the most optimal decisions, the Empire is way up. And we indeed see the Imperial player going for that maximum firepower artillery card. So at the end of General Veers' activation, he may perform attack using the following weapon: range 4 to infinity, 4 red dice, impact 2, immune to deflect. So I suspect Veers is going to go straight for this guy, try to take him down. And the rebel player will probably activate Leia and the 2 airspeeders. And the reason for that is that if the airspeeder is not killed by this attack, it should immediately be activated and used to move up and attack before the Imperials can finish it off. But if the maximum firepower does finish it off, the Imperials will have done a risky but effective focus fire play. All right, looks like here comes Veers. So he's put an aim token on each ATSTs. I actually think this is wrong. I would put one of the aim tokens on Veers himself, and the reason that I say that is that this maximum firepower card is quite important. And you really, 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 especially in this situation where this guy's going to activate next and not die, you really need to finish off that airspeeder before he attacks, so you really want to put as much as possible on it. Oh, okay. So actually what he's going to do is he's going to give each ATST an aim token. He's going to hold his ground, and then he's going to take another aim token himself. This is legal because Veers' ability is the spotter action, which is not the same as an aim action. And by doing this, he will still have the aim token for that artillery strike. So this is the big moment here. 4 red dice coming out. And 4 red dice coming out at that weakened airspeeder as predicted. Can he finish it off? Let's see what happens here. And he is in range. Four red attack dice coming out. And we see 1 crit, 2 hits, and a blank, so that will deal 2 results right now as one of the... Oh, no, it won't. Veers has sharpshooter, so he ignores cover. So this would be 3 saves for the airspeeder. He should probably reroll the blank, try to get a surge or a crit. Veers surges to crit, so if he can get another one, that would be great. Only gets a hit, so it's going to be 3 results. 3 results for that airspeeder. He needs to save 2 out of 3 on white dice. It is not likely, but it is possible. And if he can make at least 2, it will stay alive, but if he fails at least 2, that's going to be it. 3 white defense dice for the airspeeder. Let's see if he can do it. Let's see if he can do it. Can he make 2 of these? 3 white defense dice. Here they come. Only 1 makes it. That airspeeder does go down. So, big success for the Empire there, taking down the first of the rebel airspeeders with almost no damage dealt. It only managed to take down 1 stormtrooper. So an airspeeder is 175 points base, plus 10 points for that, 185, plus 20 points for that. So this 205 point model only killed 11 points of Imperials. That's how extreme the action disadvantage, or the damage disadvantage has become for the Empire. So we're seeing this one. So this one should probably move here, and then I don't know. I think that what is going on here? I think that the rebels basically no longer have a realistic chance of killing the ATSTs, as they've done no damage to the ATSTs whatsoever, and they would need focus fire from the airspeeders to kill it. So at this phase, I would just focus fire on these troopers or those troopers. I don't really know which troopers are more of a priority, but my goal would be, let's make it so that the Empire loses its troopers and can't do the objective. Just give up on killing the ATSTs. It's not going to happen. So we do see an aim, and then the question is who is going to shoot. Probably I shoot these troopers here, but maybe I shoot these troopers instead. But probably these ones, since they are close to this objective. Going for the ATST. That's a big mistake, I think. He's not going to be able to take that down in time. He needs to just give up on it, having lost this airspeeder, and focus on killing troopers at this phase, in my view. 3 red, 3 black against that ATST. It does have impact 3, does have an aim. This is probably going to do some damage, but it's not going to do enough damage to bring down the ATST in time. So he has 1 crit and 2 hits, and he gets to reroll 2 dice, so he'll reroll those 2 red dice probably. And it's very likely that this will deal 4 results against the ATST. So with 4 results... Yeah, so with 4 results, 2 rerolls from an aim token, so we're rerolling those reds. He'll probably get another hit. He does. He doesn't get another crit, so there's 3 from impact, 1 from normal. That's going to be 4 crits on the ATST. So as we can see, these airspeeder guns are powerful against the ATST. The problem is he just started too late. Ideally, he would activate the airspeeders after the ATSTs, move them into range, and fire both of them on one, so then maybe we would see some damage. Next turn they can come in and strafe, but that's not what we saw. Alright, 4 white dice coming out for that ATST. It does have defense surges. Let's see what we can roll. Only 1 success with that surge, so that'll be 3 wounds. 3 wounds on the ATST. The problem with that is, this is a good attack. This was quite successful. ATSTs have 11 wounds, though. So on average, you need something like... I think you need something like 4 or 5 airspeeder shots to reliably kill an ATST, less if you're aiming. And I think you actually need 5. It might even be 6 to kill an ATST on average. But if you're aiming, it's less than that. But the problem is he's not going to get that. This is turn 2. So if that airspeeder somehow doesn't get killed, which is very unlikely, and it is able to shoot at the same ATST every turn, again unlikely, it'll probably kill it before the game ends, but it will be on turn like 5 or 6 where it likely kills it. And that's just not going to happen. So in my view, it's unrealistic to shoot at the ATST. You need to just give up on it and focus on the Imperial Infantry. Alright, so let's see if the snowtroopers set off that mine. They do. Black and a red die against the snowtroopers, who are moving up to finally do the objective. That's going to be 1 hit on the snowtroopers, so they'll roll a red defense die. And succeed. Red defense dice are nice to have. Alright, so it looks like the second action is going to be to do the objective, add a wound onto there. That's exactly what he needs to be doing. Doing those objectives early, getting a good advantage for later in the game. Alright, so yeah, it looks like he's adding a token on there. In the meantime, I have almost finished completing the assembly of my 4th Stormtrooper squad here. Alright, so we're seeing, it looks like Leia's coming out. Looks like he may forget to use the Inspire ability to clear a suppression from that nearby squad. Also looks like she's moving the wrong way. She needs to be moving towards this squad so they don't have a risk of panicking off the board. Losing that squad would basically close up the game, in my view. But it looks like that's not what the Rebel player is focusing on. I do think that this now opens an opportunity for those ATSTs to panic that squad off the board, and essentially, I think if this squad runs, that's basically the game. And I hate to call games this early, but like the Rebels are so behind on damage done at this time that losing another unit would just be immensely costly.
And so we'll have to see whether or not that ends up being the case. But I would be very worried as the Rebel player that this game is just going to turn into a rout. We'll have to see how it pans out, though. You know, earlier we saw the game. There was the game with Riggins where he was facing against another dual. He was facing against another dual ATST list, and in that game, you know, he took some damage early on. His ATRTs didn't live all that long, but at the same time, he was killing Imperial troopers, and he was ultimately able to win on objectives by doing enough damage to the Imperial troopers that even though the ATSTs stayed alive, and didn't even necessarily take that many hits, the troopers being wiped out meant that the rebels were free to take objectives with very few of their like Imperial snowtroopers or stormtroopers remaining to oppose them. All right, looks like this squad's moving up and firing on those guys. That's a strong move. They're only in range for this gun. It hits, but it's saved by cover. However, that squad will take a suppression. So, first off, they're shooting through the woods. That's cover once it's area terrain. Second off, they have a cover from suppression anyway. So that's another suppression on that unit. I believe they already have 2, though it looks like my highlight isn't working. So they should now have 3, and that's going to put them, you know, serious risk of panic, especially if a mortar fires on them and takes them up to 5. That's almost a guaranteed panic off the board for that squad. And I think that with Leia going the wrong way, I don't know, maybe Leia's in range? No, wait, no, this is Leia. Yeah, she's not going to be in range, and that's going to be very, very negative for the Rebel player. I think that abandoning this squad here, when you're this down on units, you absolutely can't afford to do that, and there was little reason to do it in particular, because on this map, Leia is rewarded for being... This map, a commander in the center can provide leadership to units on both sides, but he deployed Leia very offset, very down here for some reason. She's actually better with the trained types that are over here anyway, just in terms of stuff. There's more like line of sight blocking terrain that allows her to get in range to use her short range without taking attacks. So it looks like this squad is moving up here and beginning their own work on the objective. You know, that's useful. That's useful to do. That's a good thing to do. But at the same time, the situation is becoming critical for the rebels. So I think after that kind of disastrous first turn, if I were the rebel commander, I would reorient towards stopping Imperials from doing objectives, which would mean I move Leia up here to try to save this squad, use this squad to try to clear the objective, maybe even use this squad for the objective. Then my focus is going to be on, can these troopers up here overwhelm these 2 trooper units? And I think probably they can. Try to overwhelm the troopers here, have the airspeeder and these guys try to overwhelm the troopers here. And in doing that, you can maybe limit the opponent's ability to get the objective. There is a mine here, so, you know, maybe you're like, okay, let him advance into the mine first, then blast him. And I think that the rebels have a good shot, would have had a good shot of being able to fight for this, while also holding this, but with their current deployment, this squad will probably panic off and leave this area woefully abandoned. At which point, even if the rebels hold the line here, the Imperial squad here will likely be able to sneak up here and do that. Alright, so that ATST is coming out now, so I think that the move here is definitely main gun on the airspeeder. So main gun on the airspeeder, mortar on that squad. Mortar, try to get that squad off the map. Main gun, try to do that. So he is aiming this time for the 2 aim tokens, that's correct. He should have done that last turn probably, but it's good to do it this turn as well. Mortar firing at the suppressed unit, as is correct. That will probably cause that unit to panic off the board. And main gun firing at airspeeder, you know, try to bring that guy down. He has a decent shot of focusing fire and bringing the airspeeder down this turn, which will leave him in a hugely dominant position against these rebels, especially as they continue to do no real damage to his troopers. 2 hits from the mortar. He uses one of his... So he has 2 hits on that squad. He uses one of his aim tokens to reroll one of them. Not sure that's right. Doesn't really matter. Still fails. This squad needs to take one save. They do have cover 1 for being suppressed. Looks like they forgot that and rolled 2 saves. Passed both anyway, but that is going to be 2 more suppression. That's going to put them up to 5 suppression. And at 5 suppression, they need to roll 4 successes on white defense dice to avoid panicking and running off the board. So I think that that squad has basically been neutralized despite not losing very many of its models, and that's never a situation you want to give your opponent. As a Rebel player, if you're facing those ATSTs, or really as an Imperial player either, if you're facing ATSTs with mortar launchers, the mortar launcher is by far the best weapon upgrade for the ATST because it adds a capability that almost nothing else in the game has, and that's this capability to panic units off the board very easily. And I suspect that concentrated suppression is going to take this unit out. So he gets 2 hits and a crit. He has 2 rerolls from the other aim token, which he's going to use here. Reroll the black and the white. Try to get 2 more hits. Nothing. So it's actually only going to be 2 saves for that airspeeder, as the airspeeder's cover 1 will save one of these hits. So it will be 1 crit and then 1 from impact. So just 2 saves. Just 2 saves for the airspeeder. And we'll see how he does. Saves both. So that's so the airspeeder manages to save those and be undamaged from that ATST. The other ATST is still there, and there are still these troopers who can focus it down. I do think there's a fair chance it'll drop this turn, but those were some lucky rolls for the Rebels on that side. Rebel troopers activating. Looks like he's going to try to activate that squad. They have 5 suppression tokens. And so if they don't roll 4 hits, they're off the board. Alright, 5 white dice. The Rebel player really needs a stroke of luck here to prevent this unit from fleeing off the board. Boy, this looks like a dubious situation for the Rebels here. They clear only 2. That means they still have 3 suppression. That means they're fleeing. That means they're off the board. That unit's gone. So I think this, I kind of called this move early on, and I think the Rebel player maybe didn't see it or maybe just played into it. But those Rebels are going to run off the board. That's going to be a critical failure for the Rebellion. They have lost a almost undamaged squad, and to make matters worse, that squad did not ever do anything with that objective. The Rebels have lost one of their home objectives. They are now in truly desperate straits. Not only are they very down on forces on board, I think that the default Rebel game plan involved both of these objectives going their way, and now probably their best hope is to focus a lot of forces to fight on this objective, but I think it may be a forlorn hope at that. On the other hand, it's possible they could intercept this squad with these guys and prevent them from using that, so this objective would remain neutral. And then if the other Rebel forces focus here, I don't know though, I think the Rebels just don't have enough units at this phase to meaningfully contest this. I am going to continue streaming this until the game is actually concluded, but at this phase the Rebels are in absolutely desperate straits, and I will be shocked if they make a comeback. Alright. Imperial troopers coming out. Yeah, because the Rebels just panicked off the board. So they're gonna activate probably some of these stormtroopers here. Looks like he's activating that unit over there in the waves. What will they do? It sounds like, well, they could aim and fire at the speeder. That's what they're gonna do. Aim and fire, just trying to down that speeder. Eliminate the last Rebel heavy firepower. 5 whites, 2 reds, 3 rerolls, 1 impact. So he has 5 hits but no crits. That actually means they should reroll they should actually be rerolling one of the hits or surges here to just fish for more crits, as they have easily enough. They can reroll the 2 blanks, but should also reroll one of the hits to just fish for crit results. They have easily enough to get that impact 1 through the cover. Let's see whether or not he realizes that his hits are useless thanks to armor. He rerolls what? 1? So he only reroll one die? I don't understand that at all. He could have rerolled two more. Okay, so maybe he's realized that. Yeah, so he is rerolling one of the surges. Oh, maybe he's not. He should be rerolling one of these surges. So he is rerolling one of the red. He's rerolling this red die. The crit chance is the same, so it doesn't matter which ones you reroll. He should just reroll any three dice here, really. But that's the little thing. These 8-sided attack dice, each one has only one crit. Even though the reds have more hits, when you're just looking for crits, it doesn't matter. Nice. So that those extra rerolls do one crit. So that's going to be one crit base and one crit from impact on the normal hits. That's going to be 2 saves have to be made for that airspeeder. I believe it's already taken 2 damage. It's already taken, yep, 2 damage. So let's see. This won't damage it. It needs to take 5 wounds to take the like actual damage result, but it might put some more wounds on it. 1 is saved, so that's 1 more wound. Okay. Alright, so that's going to take that airspeeder. It's now suffered 3 wounds. It still has 4 remaining, and there's still an ATST and another DLT Trooper squad left to shoot at it. So we'll see what happens there, but I think this airspeeder is in trouble. Imagine if instead of targeting the ATST, this airspeeder had focused on some of these stormtroopers. I think it would be a much better situation. There's not a very realistic shot to kill the ATST, and the Imperial troopers on this side are getting a little thin. If he were able to focus, like let's say he kills 2 of these troopers and puts a suppression on them, or 2 of these troopers and puts a suppression on them, now maybe they don't get a chance to aim. You know, maybe they're just going to shoot without aiming. That might mean you take less damage. It's also going to lower the amount of Imperial stuff remaining to contest this objective, which does look like it's going to be pretty crucial for the overall result of the game. Okay, so we're seeing this squad. This squad's moving up aggressively. I think they're out of range. A normal Rebel Trooper squad would be able to take some shots here and would catch these guys in the open. But I think the range 2 from these Fleet Troopers is not going to be sufficient to get in range. This is sort of the downside of the Fleet Troopers on a more open map. Range 1 to 2 is less than range... So on a closed-in map, where you're going to have to advance up close to get shots anyway in a lot of cases, range 1 to 2 is not that much of a downside, and the better attack dice is a significant upside, which does make it so that you have an overall better shot with the Fleet Troopers than the normal Troopers. But on this map, which is much more open, the Fleet Troopers at range 1 to 2 are very unlikely. The Fleet Troopers are very unlikely to actually be in range to take shots on those Stormtroopers this turn. They could do a standby action, or they could keep moving up, but we'll have to see how that pays off. Are they shooting? Yeah, so they're not in range. They have only range 2. That goes out to here. So they're clearly not in range. So this is, yeah, so they're going to have to move again, and we're now seeing a move come out, second move coming out. Looks like, yeah, so, and this should also be a range 1 move if they're moving over those crates, so. So there we go. They're coming through those crates, which does slow them down. Difficult terrain, and they are moving up closer. They are probably now in range, but they aren't going to get to fire this turn. So, and they should pre-measure range to make sure they are in fact in, because that's going to be very important for next turn shooting. All right, so let's see. We're gonna have to see what the range is here. Are they going to be in range of those guys? They should definitely pre-measure this to make sure, because he didn't use his full movement with the unit leader, and it's very important they get in range for next turn. Okay, so also this is a very bad positioning. This guy should not. These guys should not be this far up. They need to keep the squad leader as the frontmost model. Looks like they're also deciding not to pre-measure. So if they turn out not to be in range, this could be really, really bad for these rebels. We'll have to see how that pans out, but I think this is a little risky. Another core unit coming out for the Imperials, some troopers. Alright, yes, they're taking a crooked move to avoid having to go to speed 1 for jumping over that barricade. Yeah, so it actually looks like maybe the Imperial player is confident in his other ATST taking down this speeder. He's focusing his he's focusing these units. This unit's now going for the objective. Whoa, whoa. They accidentally flipped the airspeeder model. A little tabletop simulator glitch there. So probably he's trying to see whether or not he can dodge the arc of this airspeeder, which isn't that relevant because it does get a compulsory move. It looks like he won't be able to do it anyway. So in this situation, the best thing for the airspeeder to do would probably be to move to like there and shoot the main gun here and the rear gun there. So in order to prevent that, it looks like he's moving here. However, the airspeeder could still move there, pivot, main gun there, rear gun there, and that would probably be its best move. As focusing on taking down these Imperial troopers is going to be crucial if the rebels want to win this game. All right, we're seeing some more movement there. They're just figuring out the final placements. So yeah, while they do that, it's interesting to consider how what the overall Imperial strategy is here. So you have the most forces on the board by a lot, but the objectives are in kind of unfavorable placements. So one option for the Imperial player would be to actually send this ATST over here and try to push these guys off of there and then use these guys to take that rebel objective. Another option would be a big attack on this objective. Right now, each side basically has one objective. The Imperial snow troopers control this. Oh, and also these guys should be detonating the mine. I'm pretty sure they're within range 1 of this, but I guess that's not been factored in for some reason. But yeah, so the Empire now has a big advantage in forces, and they need to choose where to make their fight. Do they want to push for this objective? Do they want to push for this objective? Or do they want to play risky and actually go for everything? If the Empire did manage to take all the objectives, that would be very favorable for League placement because margin of victory is used for a tiebreaker. So in the dream scenario, the Empire would be able to score a very large number of points. The rebels still have these troopers not to activate, but everything else is already gone. So these troopers shouldn't be suppressed. The reason that they are is because he forgot to use Leia's Inspire ability. So Inspire from Leia, after your rally step, remove up to 2 suppression tokens from other friendly units at range 1 to 2. So she could have used that to clear that off. But he neglected to do that, and we'll see what happens next. All right, so let's see what's going to happen next. Looks like a small move here. As they are in the cover. Oops. Looks like they think it's speed 2. That's not right, since this guy is in the crater, making it difficult terrain. So yeah, this is wrong. You do have to take difficult terrain for any model, not just the squad leader being in the terrain. So this unit should be moving at speed 1. It looks like we're seeing these guys again. He's putting his models up before his squad leader. That's a risky move. It extends the range at which this unit can be shot at. These guys should be behind this wall in my view, but that's not what he's chosen to do. He did clear his suppression though, so he has another action. That's probably going to be another move. Yep, still not in range. That range 2 does mean that it's going to take a little longer for these fleet troopers to get in. We do see them moving again. Probably move up to here, and then these fleet troopers are threatening to those guys, and we'll have to see how this pays off. So one little note is that Leia does have a command card called No Time for Sorrows, and that gives you a free speed 1 move when your unit is ordered. So that could be used to get these fleet troopers that little extra bit of distance they need to get into close range and start doing some major damage. We'll see if that ends up being used next turn. Could also just give a little boost to boost to Leia herself. And so over here, it looks like this unit is going to activate the mine. That this unit should have activated it first, I believe. I think that's going to be within range of the mine. Oh, actually, wait, no, it shouldn't activate the mine. It's not in line of sight. The mine requires line of sight, and that unit isn't in line of sight, so the mine will not go off. But it looks like they've forgotten. They do roll a hit, and it looks like they're rolling for it. So rules mistake again, this time against the rebels. 2 hits, they have a dodge, so they only have to roll 1, but they shouldn't be rolling for this at all. These guys should have been the one that took the 2 hits. And furthermore, this unit is ineligible to be targeted by all since they're not in line of sight. They do manage to roll the save, but that should have been a save rolled for the Empire instead. Does mean they lose their dodge token though, and they shouldn't have had to do that. So we'll see if that is impactful later on. And once again, the league rules prevent me from intervening on rules mistakes like this, so apologies to the viewers, but that is just the way it's got to be. And yeah, they also take a suppression token, which is, if the players agreed to do this, that's okay, but it is unknown whether or not the mines actually inflict suppression tokens. Alright, so now we're doing the second ATST here is being activated. And that's, I think, the last unit to activate. I think everybody else has gone. So probably this guy's going to try to take down this speeder. We'll see what he does. These rebels do have some nice cover here, and they have a very advantaged position. As you can see, the rebel squad leader can see these Imperials without them having the cover from the barricade. And as a result, those Imperials might just get blasted here. This rebel squad can roll 8 white dice, so that has the potential to do a lot of damage to those Imperial stormtroopers here and really start pushing the Imperials away from this objective. It looks like we're seeing the ATST move forward. I wonder if he's going to try to fire his concussion grenade launcher against the airspeeder. Or he could also just try to focus this rebel trooper squad off the board. It's interesting. Personally, I would try to remove the airspeeder because it does represent a lot of firepower that can be turned on those troopers. Looks like he's maybe not going to move forward. So he's going to aim again. He's going to split fire again. And probably we're going to see a mortar on the rebels there and then the main gun there. Yeah, mortar on those guys and main gun there. It would have been better to shoot the mortar here, but that's illegal because the squad is within the minimum range. Alright, so main gun at the airspeeder, mortar at the fleet troopers, 2 aim tokens. Rolling the mortar first against those fleets. No hits. He should probably spend an aim token here, just to try to get that suppression, but honestly this is sort of bad anyway. He does get a crit, lucky roll, so that dodge won't do anything. They will have to take a save despite the fact they have a dodge. And they do manage to get lucky and take down a fleet trooper. That'll also be 2 suppression. So the reason this mortar launcher is so good is because it only costs 10 points. So if you kill even 1 trooper, it made its points back. And the suppression is also hugely impactful. Alright, so against the airspeeder, he's rolling 2 reds, 2 blacks, 2 whites, 2 hits, and a crit. He can reroll these 2 blacks. So right now we'll have to roll 3 saves. No, only 2 saves because cover will save one of those hits before it gets converted. So he should reroll the 2 black dice, try to get some more hits or crits to add to the overall attack. Any hit or crit is another save that thing will have to take, so he can reroll those 2. And let's see what he gets. That's going to be 2 more hits. Nice. That was some good luck on that reroll. That's going to put a total of 4... Yeah, total of 4 white defense dice for this airspeeder. And he's taken, I believe, 4 wounds, so he needs to pass at least 2 of these to live. And he passes only 1. That's going to be 3 wounds. That's going to be a dead airspeeder again. Oh no, okay, so he only had 3 wounds, not 4. So he's still alive with 1 wound left. Let's see what his 1 damage does. It's a blank. Lucky there. So he does take the disabled result, which is the least the disabled result is, as I discussed earlier, the least impactful one for the airspeeder. He is still alive. That does mean next turn, if he activates this airspeeder early, he can fly here, pivot, and then shoot both of these trooper squads. All right. So that's going to be the turn. Once again, this turn favored the Empire. They did what they needed to do. They panicked this squad off the board. They killed one of the airspeeders. They were a little unlucky or maybe unfocused to not kill this airspeeder as well. I think this squad should have piled on the shooting there. Does give the rebels an opportunity to do some damage if they can activate that airspeeder before the Imperial stuff. But overall, position quite favors the Empire. Let's see what the rebels can do to respond. Wow, so the Empire does the assault with 3 units, and the Rebels do an ambush with just 1. That 1 unit's going to be that airspeeder, and that does mean he's going to get a last hurrah here, try to take some shots before he is removed. And I think the best move for him to do here would be move into this area, pivot, main gun onto this unit, and rear gun onto that unit. That would be the move that I would make here. Move, pivot, have each gun shoot at 1 unit, and try to do some damage to those Imperials. Earlier we saw him targeting the ATST probably incorrectly. Hopefully, for the Rebels' sake, he will, at this phase, stop fixated on that ATST and realize that it's the troopers that he's going to need to bring down to take this game. Looks like he may be going for a displace. A displace would actually be very negative here. While it would put a suppression on those Imperials, it would allow the Imperial player to reposition them, likely into a position where the Rebel shooting is much less effective. So I wouldn't be doing the displace, I would just move into the center. So if you were to displace these guys, they could move onto the other side of the barricade, get cover from those guys. I don't know, I'm not seeing this as being a strong move. But we'll have to see how it pays off. So the way displacement works in this game is that if a ground vehicle or a repulsor vehicle on its compulsory move only, not on its normal move, just the compulsory move. But if a ground vehicle or a repulsor vehicle on its compulsory move moves onto another unit, it's then the player who did not control the vehicle gets to reposition the vehicle that has just moved up and displaced. So in this case, if he moves here, what's going to end up happening is that these guys get to be moved into a different position. They do take 1 suppression, but the Imperial player gets to reposition them. If you displace a squad leader, the squad leader can be placed anywhere within range 1 with the rest of the squad around him. This model is the squad leader, so this Empire player is going to have a lot of flexibility in where he repositions this unit. I have to say I think this is a mistake. The Empire player could even move this unit over here due to the range 1 the range 1 move from the squad leader. So I have to say I would not take this displacement here, but we'll have to see how it pans out. So displacement is also only on a compulsory move from a repulsor unit. It is not on a normal move. They're just not allowed to move onto troops. So the Empire troops could move all the way over here, and it looks like that's what they're going to choose to do. So they're going to be over there. They will take a suppression, but if they move into this side arc also and stay out of the front arc, the airspeeder won't be able to shoot its main gun at them. On the other hand, the airspeeder could shoot its main gun at the snowtroopers, and if it gets lucky and takes them out, that would quite impede the Imperials' ability to get their own objective. Looks like we are seeing the Empire player displacing over there into better cover against these guys. These guys are now going to have to move out and then shoot to avoid hit that unit without cover. So then they take a suppression for being displaced, and then there's still 2 actions on this rebel. Still 2 actions on this rebel airspeeder. Let's see what happens. He has a rear arc gun that has range 1 to 2, so the obvious target is there already in range, and he can shoot the main gun. Let's see if the Empire player is messed up. He has one of his troopers in the arc. This trooper is in the arc of that main gun, which means the whole unit is in arc. Arc is not by model, arc is by unit, which means he can put the main gun here. What is he doing? He should not be repositioning this unit after he takes his move like that. That's wow. Okay, that's really... Okay, you should not do it like this. You should not at all do that, because the Imperial player should have had the opportunity to put his guys outside of the arc. He did mess up anyway, but you should not change the position of a unit that's displacing after the opponent has set up their guys. That's crazy. Looks like he may be shooting the main gun at the snowtroopers instead. I think, personally, I would likely go for these guys, try to wipe them out to put the rebels into a good position for this objective, but it looks like he is going for those snowtroopers. This is risky, but if he does manage to wipe out the snowtroopers, he could force these guys to maybe pull back, and then the rear gun will fire here, but I would put the main gun here. I think this objective is a lost cause, because Veers will be able to move up and clear it easily, even if the snowtroopers do wipe. So I would put the main gun on the blue guys, and then the rear gun on that guy. Okay, so one of the players is saying he realized that he moved the airspeeder too far up, and that's why that happened. And that makes more sense, but yeah. Yeah, so he's going to roll the ground buzzer first with 4 black dice against this unit, the yellow unit there. Alright, so here we go. He's got a hit and a crit. He's not using his reroll. There's no cover, so that's 2 saves for the stormtroopers. They pass both. Lucky saves. But not that lucky. That's the 4+ save. They should take a suppression. And maybe they've forgotten that, but we'll see. Hey, welcome back, Kawajiri Akira. So overall, the Empire has a big advantage right now. We'll have to see exactly what happens, but the airspeeders have been taking a lot of damage. The ATSTs have not. Main gun on those snowtroopers. Let's see if he can get lucky and take down these troopers. It's very unlikely, but if he does get it, it would be... Alright, he's got 2 crits and 2 hits, and he gets to reroll the 2 that didn't make it. So he is going to put a lot of saves on these troopers. Let's see what he gets. Just imagine, though, if that were on these blue troopers instead. Alright, 3 crits, 2 hits. They have cover once. That's 5 saves. Here's the problem. Or, yeah, I'm sorry, there's 5 results, 1 is removed, so 4 saves. He would have to fail every save to wipe this squad. I don't think it's going to happen unless he gets really unlucky. It'd be better to remove models from this squad that's in the fight more. Wow, he passes... I guess it's totally moot. He passes all 4 saves. Excellent rolling from the Imperial player, passing 6 red defense dice there, where he should have saved 3 of them across the 2 units. That is a suppression token for both units, and it looks like they may have forgotten that. There is one here, but I don't see one on the snowtroopers this time. So one advantage of splitting fire with units that have multiple weapon types is that it does let you put out more suppression, which can just do some damage. We do see Veers activating. Veers probably wants to give his aim tokens to those ATSTs and then maybe just take pot shots at the speeder here. He does have surges to crits, and he has 3 dice, so he actually has a reasonable shot of getting a crit. And if he does get a crit, because he has Pierce, it's just going to take down the airspeeder. So I would put an aim token on each ATST and then fire my own gun. If I get lucky and take down the airspeeder, that's a big gain because I don't have to shoot a more powerful unit. Looks like he's taking a move instead. I don't know why he's moving. I don't think that's very impactful. But he has decided to move up a bit in this situation. Personally, I think having Veers take shots against the airspeeder would have been a good opportunity to maybe get lucky, but that's not what he's gone for. Let's see what the Rebels do to respond. So the next Rebel unit's probably going to be Troopers, could be Leia. Hopefully it's Troopers for their sake. It is Troopers, so these guys probably want to move out here and blast these, put another suppression on them before they do anything, and hopefully do some major damage as well. So it does look like they're the ones getting activated. So they don't have good line of sight. They need to move up. The one problem is these guys are going to be pretty exposed once they do that. On the other hand, the Imperial squads here are suppressed and may want to shoot for the airspeeder instead to avoid wasting ATST firepower on it. But the ATST itself could likely destroy those. I really do think that the... So, like, if we look over here, I think the Rebels are in desperate shape because I think if this squad moves up to engage those guys, this ATST can blast them. The problem that the Rebels are facing here is and there's an issue that sometimes happens in this game if you lose squads early on. And the issue is that once you've started losing some squads, you become at a disadvantage in terms of activations, which is to say that if these guys were activating after the Imperials, they would actually be in a great position, but because they're activating beforehand, they have to expose themselves and take a lot of firepower. You want to activate second in a lot of situations, and for that reason, it can be better to not do that. Looks like they're going for this barricade, very odd. I don't know why he's doing that. I don't know. Okay, actually, so looking from here, they can get some cover. So these units should then be blasting these guys here. They have the cover 1, and that would be 8 white dice. Decent shot to do some damage. But if the Imperial player keeps rolling the way he has been with those saves, it might not pay off. Kawajiro Kira says, suppression management looks like an interesting skill to master. I agree. Suppression is very relevant in this game in terms of its effects on infantry units in particular. Alright, so it looks like they are going to fire on the stormtroopers that are on the objective. Let's see if they can do some damage. Alright, 8 white dice. Luckily, the Rebel player didn't opt to use Standby. Standby is almost useless. These guys do get a benefit. After they Standby, they can gain an aim token, but Standby actions are generally weak that it's almost never worth it to do anyway. Alright, 8 white dice with surges to crits. Wow, 5 natural crits. So the cover that these guys have doesn't do anything. It's surges to hits, not surges to crits, but it doesn't matter. 5 saves. Maybe the Empire player's luck will change, and he could lose this squad right here. If he fails all these, he passed all the saves earlier. It could happen. He passes 2. He passes 4. The Empire player still rolling amazing saves. So out of 11 red defense dice this turn, he has passed 10. That is truly absurd. He should have lost. He should have lost a full squad at this phase, or 5.5, almost a full squad. But those red defense dice are paying off. Someone remarked earlier that Star Wars Legion is one of the few games in the Star Wars franchise where the Stormtrooper armor is actually really effective, and it really is. The Stormtroopers rolling red defense dice do give them that opportunity to get lucky. All right. So what's going to come up next? Looks like some more Stormtroopers coming up. The guys up top, they're moving for that objective that was once held by the squad that was panicked off by those mortar launchers. And maybe they're going to, if I were the Imperial player, looking at these guys, I could probably attack these at the very least suppress them. I think that's going to be more useful than doing 2 moves. Move up and attack, probably. They are going to have cover 2, but I think it's worth it to shoot them. Oh, looks like they're going for the double move anyway. They're beelining for the objective. That does put them at risk for being shot down by these guys. With these Rebel Troopers, they could just aim and shoot. That Rebel squad has been upgraded with the targeting scopes to give them an extra reroll. So this squad could aim and shoot, and they would roll 8 white dice and 2 red dice with Pierce, and 3 rerolls. I think I would... I'm not sure I would take the 2 moves. I would try to shoot these guys, at the very least put a suppression on them. Maybe they won't be able to aim. Maybe do some damage to them as well. But that's not what he opted for. Now we're going to see probably those Rebel Troopers trying to shoot him down, and let's see how much damage they can do. I'm pretty sure they're in range. So this should be aim and shoot in my view. Get that extra reroll from the targeting scopes. Yep, aim and shoot. He has precise 1. That's going to be 3 rerolls. So 8 white dice, 2 red dice, Pierce 1. And they do have surges to hits. The Imperials will have cover 1 for the forest, but I'm not sure how well it will do. It will serve them. Let's see what the Rebels can do. 8 white dice, 2 red dice, and 3 rerolls. So they start off with an impressive 6 hits. They do have surges to hits, so that's going to be 6 results. And they can reroll 3 of the failures, so we could be seeing even more than that. Looks like they may have forgotten those targeting scopes, only rerolling 2. So, yeah, it looks like he forgot his targeting scopes there, so it's just going to be those 6 results. So 1 is removed due to cover 1, and then there's... So, yeah, the cover removes 1, and then there's going to be 5 red defense dice, and the first success is ignored thanks to Pierce. This could do some major damage. The Empire player only rolls 2 saves this time, so that's going to be... Pierce ignores 1, so 4 stormtroopers are killed here. Very dangerous shooting. Alright, so 4 stormtroopers die from this attack. Oh, it looks like, I don't know, maybe they're redoing the targeting scopes thing now. They're rerolling another die. Okay. Kind of them to let that happen. Doesn't matter anyway. Alright. So 4 stormtroopers are downed, and they take a suppression. So that attack really does show the firepower of the fleet troopers, especially with that scattergun upgrade. You can see here, this guy here with the kind of double-barreled shotgun weapon. That weapon is 2 red dice and a successful, and it has Pierce 1, which is cancel up to 1 block result. So the fleet troopers with the scattergun can do immense damage to enemy troopers, at least those that aren't immune to Pierce. And we indeed saw, one attack there took out a bunch of those Imperial troopers. They did roll slightly unlucky for their saves, but those fleet troopers really pack a punch up close. In fact, this unit here should have taken heavy damage as well. The only thing that prevented it was very lucky saves from that Imperial player. Biggin says in his last game for his bracket, his Luke and his opponent's Luke couldn't hurt each other due to the red dice. They traded attacks, and each Luke took 1 damage from 4 attacks. Wow, that is wild. Alright. The snowtroopers clear their suppression. Their first action is going to be to sabotage, so they have put the... this one is now all the way up. As we can see here, it has all 4 counters on it, 1, 2, 3, 4, which means this is giving 2 objective points to the Imperial player at the end of the game. And now the snowtroopers are going to move up and attack, thanks to their steady ability. Get some shots on these guys. It does look like this squad is going to have the heavy cover. They are well deployed here. This guy is in the open, that guy's in the open, but it's a 5-man squad, and these 3 are all behind cover. So against heavy cover, these white dice might not do all that much, but it is more shots coming in. And we do see one of the strengths of the snowtroopers there, where they can begin advancing and exerting more threat while also still firing, thanks to that steady ability. So snowtroopers have steady. After you perform a move action, you may perform a free ranged attack action. So they're going to take some shots. Okay. So he rolls the 4 white dice and gets no results. That's the downside of those white dice. So it's kind of funny to think about how strong the fleet troopers are at close range. Each fleet trooper has the damage output of 2 of those snow troopers, and the fleet troopers have that powerful heavy weapon as well. But only works at that close range. All right, so we're looking here. So these guys complete their repairs on that objective. They're not quite in range though, so they're probably going to just move up and then hope to engage those stormtroopers more directly next turn. It looks like they take a dodge instead. Maybe they're going to be moved up by Leia's what's it called card next turn. But I think this unit should be moving up. I think that unit should just be moving up. It's possible that his plan is I'm going to stay a little further back with them, move up next turn, use that No Time for Sorrows card to get the free speed 1 move, which should be enough to take them in range of the blue troopers. Alright, those stormtroopers over here activating, they still have a suppression. No suppression is cleared. So it looks like these guys are actually just going to take their 1 action to fire. Those guys will have the heavy cover. And the firing here does 2 hits and a crit. The 2 hits are negated by the cover, so 1 save for those rebel troopers. We do see the benefits of cover here, and the weakness of the stormtrooper squads when they're not aiming. They're not that consistent. The rebels do make their save. That's 1 suppression on those rebel troopers only, so these stormtroopers not contributing much this turn. Alright, so the only remaining rebel unit is Leia, who I think's only... If she moves up to here, she might be in range of those guys, but I don't... this guy's pretty far up. This is, again, the weakness of putting guys forward relative to your squad leader. If the stormtroopers were back here, there's no way Leia would be able to be in range, but she might have range to that guy, which would mean she would have range to the whole squad. And Leia's ranged attack is actually very powerful. She has 3 black dice. So if you look at Leia's card here, she has 3 black dice with Pierce 1, Surge to crits, and Sharpshooter 2, ignoring cover completely. So if she can move up to range to shoot those guys, she could potentially do some very real damage. Looks like she's moving in a less direct route and also illegally moving through this without going to speed 1. I would personally try to get as close as possible. If she's in range 2 here while also getting the cover, though, that would be great. That said, you can't really move to the edge of the barricade like that. Let's see if she's got it. She's in range. She's in range. So Leia gets to take some shots at those stormtroopers. 3 black dice. So this is gonna do some. This could do some major damage. Leia actually has better damage output than a normal rebel trooper squad with the extra trooper and the Z6 against enemy units in cover, thanks to her sharpshooter and Pierce. So interestingly, the only model that can't be seen here is this DLT trooper. So if Leia maxes out her roll, the squad leader will actually die. Normally the squad leader must be removed last, but we'll see how that pans out. This turn hasn't actually been that bad for the rebels, though I say that and the ATSTs haven't activated yet. The ATSTs are really going to be the telling facet of this turn. If they do major damage, that's going to put the rebels in a desperate spot. But if they whiff or do light damage, the rebels are actually in a pretty good position for attacking this objective with their infantry, especially given that Leia still gets to shoot. All right, so Leia gets a hit and a crit. So that's going to be 2 results. 2 red dice for the stormtroopers. The first success is ignored. Here come the 2 red dice, and they succeed 1, but Pierce negates that. So that's 2 dead stormtroopers thanks to Leia. Leia's actually real strong at shooting, much stronger than people might think. And that means 2 stormtroopers drop, and they take another suppression. So that squad's in big trouble now. All the rebel units have activated now, which does mean we'll see the we'll see the Imperial units now having a bit of the a bit of free reign in terms of what they do on the board here. So this unit has multiple suppression. They're rolling 3. Or I guess they rolled 1 and it already succeeded, so now they're rolling the other 2. They succeed in clearing 2 of the suppression, but that still means there's 1 suppression left on them. They'll only get 1 attack. Or 1 action, but I suspect it will be an attack. Attack is kind of just always one of the most impactful things you can do. So this attack does 1 surge, 1 hit. They have cover 1 for being suppressed, so that's going to be 1 save for these fleet troopers. And makes a save. These fleet troopers are rolling some good saves, just like the stormtroopers were earlier. Both of these stormtrooper squads have fired at them to no effect. Okay, so let's see what happens next here. So this ATST is getting real close. So he tries to shoot the mortar here, but the minimum range is going to prevent... Oh, he can just shoot... So he could shoot his mortar over here at Leia or these guys, or he could shoot his close-range grenades at these guys, ignoring their cover. Mortar doesn't do anything. So that's 1 suppression on Leia only. Not sure why that went there. And then main gun against the airspeeder. He does have that aim token still. He's gonna get only 2 hits, so that will only do 1 crit if his aim token doesn't generate anything. But he does still have that aim. Wow, good saves once again from the Rebels. The main gun gets 2 results through, but they are both saved by that airspeeder. I think it only has 1 wound left, but it is managing to carry on through the storm. The question is, can that other ATST stop it? So this ATST from here could aim, shoot at this guy with 2 aims, and fire his mortar over there. That would be pretty reasonable. Can he see Leia? He can see Leia. Yeah, he can see Leia. Alright, main gun on the airspeeder. 2 hits and a crit. And he does have an aim. He might actually have 2 aims. Does use the aim token. He's trying to ensure that airspeeder goes down. If the airspeeder gets to activate again, that would put them in trouble. I'd note that Leia hasn't used her artillery. This might be a good turn to do it. The reroll... Okay, so that's only 2 hits and a crit. That's only 2 saves again, since cover saves one of them. Can he replicate his double save from last turn and keep this airspeeder alive? No, only 1 save. The airspeeder will barely die, but it will die. And now we're going to see that mortar firing as well, I believe. Mortar firing at Leia. They could actually suppress her. 1 hit? Yeah, that's 2 tokens on her. All right, well, let's do an end to turn summary here. So we've seen that the ATSTs have cleared out those airspeeders, despite it taking a little longer than we might have thought. So I do think that the Rebels are still in desperate shape. The ATSTs have the firepower to maybe push them off these objectives. Currently, the objectives are tied. The Imperials have totally sabotaged this one. The Rebels have totally repaired this one. The question is what's going to happen with this objective and that objective. And while the Rebels are currently advantaged here, I suspect that the onslaught of the ATSTs is going to change that. We do see Leia using her artillery here. So she can do 3 attacks at enemy units with range 4 to infinity with deflect after her normal activation. So the problem here is that the minimum range of that ability is going to mean that it may not be so good. So in the situation where both players use a card with the same priority, so the Imperials used Ambush, that's 1 pip, and Leia used her artillery card, also only 1 pip, Coordinated Bombardment. So the way this works is that they roll a red defense die, and one player is going first on a block, the other player is going forward on a blank or a surge. And the reason that is because there's 3 blocks on the red defense die, so it's a 50-50. Red defense die rolling from the Rebel. If it's a block, he's first. It's a block, he's first. Alright, Rebel time. Leia. So Leia could activate Clear the Suppression from this unit. It depends. She has 2 suppression currently, and that's equal to her courage value. So she won't panic, but she will be suppressed unless she clears at least 1. If her Inspire only works on other units, so she can't use it on herself, other friendly units at range 1 to 2. So that does mean that she won't be able to... If she doesn't roll at least 1 suppression, she'll only get 1 action, but she could, for instance, give her and these guys a dodge token and then shoot the artillery, or she could, I don't know, she can maybe move backwards to ensure the squad's not within minimum range. There's various things she could do. But she wants to maximize the impact of this artillery, and it doesn't have any special ability against vehicles, so probably she's gonna want to send this as many troopers as possible. But it looks like actually she's just activated some troopers. A little strange to activate these before Leia activates to clear their suppression. Let's see if their suppression gets cleared anyway by just natural processes. It does not, so they bit dubious there. Bit dubious there. Only one action. I guess that's going to be to shoot these guys. Those guys don't have a suppression anymore, so that's going to be 8 white dice into those 2 troopers who have no cover. Those guys could be in big trouble. Alright, here come the 8 white dice. Let's see what we got. Ah, it looks like a strong roll. 2 crits, 2 hits, and a surge. That's going to be 5 saves for those stormtroopers. Really, quite a lucky roll there. Quite a lucky roll there. On average, he should only get 3 results off 8 white dice, but he got 5 instead. Let's see if that's enough to drop these stormtroopers. Stormtroopers keep rolling lucky with 4 saves. It does mean, however, they have to lose the DLT model here. They have to lose the DLT model here because the squad leader must die last if possible. And that does mean that this situation is going to be this squad not doing much damage. Probably the best option for that squad, if they manage to get 2 actions, is going to be simply to go for the objective-based gameplay. Okay, so let's see here. Veer's now moving up, giving an aim token to both ATSTs and then moving. He should probably be shooting here. I think this guy's moving too much and not shooting enough. Veer's shooting attack may not be amazing, but like you're missing out on value by not taking these shots, and it's unclear to me what he's gaining from advancing. I guess he's keeping pace with the ATSTs, but the ATSTs themselves are advancing too much in my view. I could be wrong though. Could easily be wrong. So, looking at the artillery strike, Leia could... Did she take an action? Maybe she didn't. Did she dodge? So she could... So, this unit's within the minimum range. So what I would do with her actually is I would run around the edge here and fire the artillery at this unit, Veers, and that unit. I don't care about the ATST. You'll not take it down this game. So with her one action, run back behind here, and then you can do... 2 shots there, 2 shots there, 2 shots there. Looks like she aims instead. That's a bit of a mistake. I don't think the aim token... I don't know. We'll see. But I would personally want to put the shots over there, because if you kill even one of those troopers, it's going to drop the heavy weapon. She ignores all the cover. If she kills both the troopers, that squad's wiped. If she kills one of the troopers, you don't have to worry about that DLT. And as it stands, she's going to have to fire 1 here, 1 at Veers, and 1 at an ATST. She and the ATST is probably not going to be very impactful. So first artillery strike coming in on that unit. 2 red dice. Surge to crit, ignore cover. She does have an aim. May as well use the aim. So she should use her aim token here. They just remove a guy. Not sure why they're removing a guy. Maybe they think this attack has Pierce. It does not have Pierce. It has immune to deflect. Pierce is a property of Leia's weapon. It is not a property of the thing in general. Does look like they also neglected to use the aim here. I don't think that's right. Now it's going against Veers. Hit and crit. It's so likely that these red dice are going to hit that if you have even one miss and an aim token, you should spend it with this attack. So Veers rolls 2 red dice and saves 1. All right, so we're seeing. So Veers is going to take a wound here. It seems like Talk Polite is correcting them on the use of Pierce here. So that's good. So that does mean he'll have to roll a save for those guys, and Veers will only take 1 wound. So let's see if they pass their save for these guys. Not sure why that. Still not sure why that aim token wasn't used, but that's okay. Looks like they're just getting a guy back. Did they roll for that? I'm not sure. I thought they just removed the guy without rolling, so they should now roll a die and see if the guy goes down. But I could be wrong. And it looks like maybe she has... Did she not do the third one? Did she do the third one against the ATST or something? Okay, looks like she's doing that attack now. That's cool. Crit and a hit. The hit will be saved. So that will be 1 save for the ATST. You know, maybe do some damage to it, but that ATST is not going to die. It's kind of... She uses the aim token here, and she does reroll into a crit. That's nice. That does mean that's going to be 2 saves for that ATST. But the ATST has not taken all that many wounds. It's taken... When it takes 0 more as both are saved. Yeah, it's only taken 3 wounds. Yeah, and it has 11. So shooting it at all is kind of pointless at this point. I would just try to... I would have taken the move back here. Artillery there, artillery there, artillery there. That would have been a little more optimal in my view, since I think it's unrealistic. I think it's unrealistic to get the kill on the ATST at this phase. You've lost your impact weapons. They have 11 health. You gotta just focus on taking down the troopers and plant the objective. That's what paid off for Riggins in his own game after he had trouble with the ATSTs. And here, I think we're seeing a little too much attention being paid to the ATSTs in a way that might not prove as effective here. Injured ATST now activated. Probably it just wants to try to blow those rebel troopers out of the water. It can fire its main gun and its grenades, ignoring their cover. Actually, he is opting to shoot the orange troopers instead. That makes sense. You can put that suppression on them, prevent them from moving up and shooting this turn. Alright, looks like they are focusing on that unit with all their weapons. 5 whites, 2 blacks, 2 reds. They do have an aim. They might have 2 aims if they've taken another one. That's going to be pretty weak. 2 crits and 2 hits. They do get rerolls for those surges. All right, so we see a 3, or the reroll gives them, they're now at 3 hits and 3 crits, 6 saves coming out, and 3 of them pass. A little above average, but that is going to be 2 suppression on that squad. With Leia already activated, she can't remove their suppression. They won't panic, but they're unlikely to be able to do that much. We really are seeing, you know, up here we're seeing the strength of the fleet troopers when the enemies get up close. Down here we're seeing the weakness of the fleet troopers in this open environment. For some reason, he removed 4 models instead of 3. That is not correct. He passed 3 of those saves. Not sure why he removed a 4th model. I think that was just a mistake. But it is not. Does not seem to be valid. All right, so it looks like maybe they're realizing that we got another another trooper coming back. Okay, that unit should have 2 suppression also, which has not been added. So that's another relevant thing. Haster times 3 says more tanks with legs. Yeah, the ATST design remains silly, but it does look cool. Good to see you, Haster, as well. These troopers over here, fighting against the Imperials. Coming for this objective. They're going to aim and shoot. Looks like they're going to shoot. I would probably go for... I'd probably go for the snow troopers here. Just try to take them down. The snow troopers are in the open. And let's see what they can do. All right. Shooting. 4 hits and 2 crits, and they're going to get to reroll 3 of those with their targeting scopes, so that could be fatal to these fleet troopers, who I don't believe have cover. Cover is measured in this game from the squad leader. Oh, no, they definitely have cover. Yeah, or no, he's touching this, so it doesn't count. Just kidding. All right, 7 results. 7 saves for the fleet troopers, and the first one is... or the snow troopers. The first one's ignored. That's probably the whole squad gone. 3 failures. 4 failures. So the Pierce is wasted, but it doesn't matter. That squad is 100% wiped. So these fleet troopers, as we can see, when they get in range, especially with that scatter gun, they're absolutely lethal. These guys are taking down 2 Imperial squads at once and winning. But I'm not sure if it's going to be enough to get this game to the Rebel player. There is a chance that he wins here. Imagine this scenario. These stormtroopers get killed by the fleet troopers. This area remains a draw. The fleet troopers here managed to put the repairs or whatever on this objective and get this one going the Rebel way while this one remains a draw. If that were to happen, the Rebels could pull off a comeback from behind here. But with the support of the ATST against the troopers, I think that these guys, I'm not sure how long these guys will be able to hold out. This ATST should probably advance and shoot its grenade launcher at them to ignore their cover. So these stormtroopers tried to clear suppression but failed. They're going to just take some shots, firing on those fleet troopers who will have the cover 2 again. This time it's this time it's an amazing roll. So that's a total of all 6 results. So that's going to be 5 saves. 5 saves for those guys, but actually cover 2 will save 2. Yeah, my mistake. It should be 4 saves, not 5 saves. My mistake. I was thinking of cover 1 here. So 4 saves against the 4 saves for these troopers. If they roll badly, that squad could wipe here. Let's see if they make it. 3 saves. These guys continue their lucky rolls, and only 1 trooper from this squad drops. Okay, so they do take more suppression. The Rebels are very suppressed over here, but the Imperials are too. The ATSTs are kind of looming over the battlefield, but the question is whether or not enough Imperial troopers are going to live through this. to manage to actually win this game on the objectives. If the objectives are a tie, you go to who has destroyed more points of the opponent's army, and I think the answer for that one is certainly going to be the Empire, given that those two expensive airspeeders are down and the ATSTs have taken no damage whatsoever. All right. So these guys moving up, they should not move into this cover. It will slow them to speed 1. They need to do a speed 2 move here to get closer faster, and I think that means they will not be able to get cover. That does mean these guys are going to kind of be in a risky spot, but they do have cover 1 already from being suppressed, so maybe that will be sufficient to provide some protection to that squad. All right, so we're seeing, yeah, they're going in. The ATST is going in. It's going to try to clear these guys out. It can fire its main gun and its concussion grenade launcher to ignore their cover. So that combined attack will be 2 reds, 4 blacks, 2 whites, ignoring cover. And this, the way that blast works in this game, they should turn off the range thing on this. It's very confusing. But this ATST is stalking forward and is going to blast these guys. We'll see what happens with that attack, but it could go quite negative for the could be quite negative for the remaining forces there. Looks like 6 results. Sorry, I need to pan the camera. 6 results here with that aim token, and all 6 have to be rolled because it ignores cover. 3 successes, so 3 fleet troopers are down. That's going to leave just the squad leader and the scattergun. With that powerful scattergun still there, they have a good chance of wiping these guys. But even if they wipe these guys, I think that is not going to leave them in a position where they're going to be able to survive long enough to do this objective themselves. So this game might all come down to what happens on this objective. If let's say these fleet troopers wipe those 2 guys, and then we're going to be down to what will happen here with all these units fighting for the center. But I think with this ATST here, the Imperials are likely to prevail and win the game. We'll have to see, though. This game is certainly turning out to be much closer than I had initially anticipated, despite the Rebels taking very heavy casualties early on. The 1 sergeant here, he inactivated. Can he clear his suppression? Nope. He's suppressed. He should probably... I don't even know what he wants to do at this point. Maybe just take a pot shot at the Rebels over here. I don't know. All the Rebel squads are suppressed, so they all have cover 1. He should maybe he should move in contact with the objective and make it so that next turn he can threaten to do the objective, which will force the Rebels to do something about it. Right now it's a 2-2 tie on objectives. This objective is fully sabotaged. This objective is fully cleared. The question is, who can get any further points? This squad should probably just run and do the point objective immediately, rather than trying to stop to shoot these guys. Just taking the point there, and then even if they kill you next turn, the ATST probably kills them, and then you do have 1 point from that. So I think these guys should just run for it, but we'll see what happens. It looks like This stormtrooper, this stormtrooper is moving into contact with the objective. He's just going for it. Biggin says this game is close only because the Imperial player failed to capitalize on the objectives in the early game. Yeah, that's correct. The Imperial player strongly misplayed early on. This objective should not have been placed this far forward, and these squads should have moved up sooner to contest this objective instead of shooting here. So I do think he has given the opportunity. On the other hand, the Rebel player also greatly misplayed by allowing this unit to be driven off the board. That could have easily been averted and would have put them in a much stronger overall position. So I think we've seen some interesting things from both people here that are not necessarily entirely valid. Okay. I've just received word that TalkPlay's going to be playing via Stabcast Ryan. And so we're gonna maybe see a double cast here with another game coming out here. Looks like these. Oh man, these stormtroopers are aiming and shooting. Oh man, that's so risky. They need to be going for that objective. They do have 2 reds and a white, and these guys only have cover 1. They're both visible, but they do have suppression. If they don't kill these guys, though, these guys could kill them and prevent the Imperial player from taking that objective. 1 hit, 1 crit. They do have an aim, so they can aim and reroll the other one. Right now, it's only 1 result. The Rebels need to... Oh, man. The reroll fails, so that's going to be 1 crit. If the Rebels save this, they have a good chance of wiping this squad next turn. But if they fail it, they have to lose that heavy weapon, and that means these guys are probably going to live to take that objective. Let's see if they can make the save. They made it! Lucky for the Rebels there. If these fleet troopers can activate before getting wiped out, and they can potentially clear these Imperial guys and prevent the Imperials from taking this objective. This game is remarkably close, though as the comments say, it may be that way due to tentative behavior from the Empire early on. Riggin says, "Me and you have to make it to the finals. Needs to be Rebel versus Rebel." Yeah, man. Let's have a showdown in the finals. Rebel versus Rebel. I'm not like so people talk sometimes about faction loyalty in some games. Like L5R is big on faction loyalty, for instance. I'm not actually sure I'm gonna be faction loyal to the Rebels in this game. But so I'm not sure if I'm gonna be faction loyal to the Rebels in this game or not. I am faction loyal to my the Dragon in L5R, but I'm not sure I'm as committed in this. I have the models for both, and we'll probably be making both armies, so we'll see how that goes. All right, so we see no time for sorrows with that free movement. Oh, nice. This free movement could be used to get these guys back behind this cover, or it could be used to get them further to the objective. The free movement here could put this squad onto the objective. Oh, man, he can take the free move. So he should activate these 2 troopers if possible and use the... So this order gives you a free speed 1 move. So he can use those 2 speed 1 moves. He can use 1 on these guys, immediately move them onto the objective. And then if they can clear their suppression, they can shoot this guy to kill him and then sabotage the objective, which would actually be an amazing move for the Rebels. Let's see if they can do it. So that speed 1 move, yeah, they should be going right onto the objective with the speed 1 move. And then if they can clear suppression, or if Leia activates first, she clears the remaining suppression, and then they shoot that guy, probably kill him, and also start repairing that objective right out from under the Imperials. What a situation. This card is really paying off here. The No Time for Sorrows card from Leia. When a friendly trooper unit is issued an order, it may perform a speed 1 move. Very strong card. The Empire played Evasive Maneuvers. When a friendly vehicle unit is issued an order, it gains 1 dodge. Friendly vehicle units can spend dodge to cancel crits. The problem with this is that no firepower should be being put on these ATSTs at all, so the benefit of the dodge is actually negated. And in some respects, this actually becomes a weaker version of the standard 2-pip push card, because it forces you to activate your vehicles, and the benefit it applies to them is not relevant. It would have been better to activate Veers instead. Yeah, so we are seeing these guys using that free move to move back, get behind those crates, and get cover against those Imperials over there. It will additionally force, I believe, the ATST to move up to continue being within range too, especially if this guy were put back there, which would be a better placement for him. So it looks like The question now is who's going to go first. You have to roll a red defense die because they chose dice with equivalent, or they chose command cards with equivalent pips. The man. So I guess the Imperials won the roll off, and the ATST's coming over here. That does mean probably it's going to be able to shoot and wipe these guys out. And if it wipes these guys out, that's going to put them in a, you know. So with the Imperial winning that roll off, it does put them in a much better spot. If these guys were to go first, they could probably shoot there and kill them. But with the ATST going first, it can probably shoot first and kill them. The Rebels need to really get a lot of luck here. The ATST can ignore this cover thanks to its blast, but if it doesn't have an aim token because it had to move up, and that does mean that if the ATST whiffs this roll and these Rebel troopers live, that could actually create a situation where these guys get killed and are unable to get that objective for the Empire. Is this turn 5? This is also turn 5. All right, the ATST, weak roll from the ATST, 1 hit, 1 crit. That could be the Rebels' chance. If they can pass both of these saves, they're actually in a great position. Can they do it? Oh man, this is intense. Can they do it? If they pass both these saves, the Rebels may be able to hold on to this objective. Let's see it. One pass. Unfortunately, that does mean that the heavy weapon has to be removed. The squad leader has to be removed last, so the heavy weapon, which is more valuable, dies. That does mean that this squad leader on his own is probably going to be unable to stop them, but if he shoots them, he can suppress them and prevent them from moving and doing the objective this turn, which will still be useful for the Rebels. Also, he could like roll incredibly lucky and get 2 crits and kill both guys. I mean, it's not likely to happen, but it could happen. All right, so it looks like the troopers here were still suppressed, so they spent 1 action. They spent one action. So they spent 1 action to clear the clear a thing from the objective only. They weren't able to rally. The ATST, Veers is going to give an aim to the ATST. He should take an aim himself and shoot, but it looks like Veers is continuing his move up. I do think that Veers has been quite mismanaged here. He should be firing his weapon more and moving less, especially in this situation where there's all these units at very low health, just a few extra shots. Let's say Veers had shot a few times and killed like 2 guys. That could have been quite useful. Not what we saw, though. Not what we saw, though. So those guys are moving up. They weren't quite in range yet to take their shots against the. It might have been better to actually activate them with the moving card, because that would have let them be in range with only 1 action, and these guys didn't need to move. I guess them moving forced the ATST to move up. Okay, so it was kind of worth it. All right, so they're moving up. I guess they're still touching that for cover, and then they're gonna probably shoot and try to clear off that guy. Yep, so this squad still has a scatter gun, so that's going to be 4 whites and 2 reds with Pierce 1. All they need to do is get 1 hit and that guy's dead. So that's going to be a pretty easy showing, I think. 4 whites and 2 reds to clear that Imperial Trooper off the objective. Let's see if they can get it. Yeah, that's a hit. He's dead. Pierce means he's dead. Looks like they're rolling saves anyway, but it does have Pierce. He should not even get a chance to save. So Pierce is one of the strongest abilities in the game right now. Vader and Luke are immune to it, which does minimize its impact in that case. But if you're using Pierce against units that have good saves, especially red defense dice, it's really impactful. So as we're seeing here, he doesn't even get a chance to get lucky with a 25% chance to pass both those saves. Guy just dies, and that's going to put the Imperials in a bit of trouble. All right. So it looks like these stormtroopers have just moved up twice. They are not quite yet at the objective, but they're just pushing for it. There's only one turn left in this game after this one. Maybe these stormtroopers will be able to move on to the objective and use it again. Boy, this is really coming down to the wire, though I don't think it's coming down to the wire for reasons that are necessarily super valid. This trooper needs to activate now, shoot those guys and suppress them. He's got to do this guy first before those Imperial troopers activate. Looks like he's pulling Leia instead. That's such a mistake. He's got to do these guys first. Okay, he decides not to do it. He decides not to do it. Whew. Good job, Rebel Commander. All right, so he's got to roll one suppression die, or one die for suppression. The main thing that he could do, he doesn't. Okay, so if he did clear it, he could move twice and get into close combat with these guys, which would force them to stay in combat until they either kill him. Yeah, it looks like he's just going to take a shot, just rolling those 2 white dice against those troopers. If he gets 2 crits and gets super lucky and kills them, that would be amazing, extremely strong for the Rebels, but seems unlikely. They do have cover 1, but all he needs is a hit to suppress them, and suppressing them matters a lot as well. He gets a crit, so they do have to roll a save, and that's a suppression as well. The suppression's almost more important, but let's see. He takes down the DLT trooper with that lucky shot. What a roll. Yeah, so the DLT trooper is removed. It's just the squad leader left in that squad, and he does take a suppression, which means that he's probably unable to clear the objective this turn. The only things... This ATST is left. That trooper is left. Leia is left. This ATST should probably blast the 3-man squad. 3-man squad there has a decent chance of blasting these guys and taking them off the field. Oh man, what a game, man! This is turning out to be so close. Not, I think, for reasons that are super likely to come up when players are more experienced, but I still think that it's going to be pretty real. Begin says the Imperials have some great models, including the ATST. I don't actually have an ATST. I actually got 2 core sets of this game, so I have, and I got 1 extra Stormtrooper squad, so I have just a very basic Imperial army with Vader, 5 troopers, and 2 speeder bikes. All right. So he's going to aim, and then he's going to focus his firepower. He's blasting the Rebel squad that's in base contact with the objective. That's a good move. He does have line of sight to all of them. They do have heavy cover, but he ignores it. Can he wipe these guys out? Can he wipe these guys out? All weapons firing, or rather the grenade launcher and the main gun. Only 3 hits. Not great, but he does get to reroll 4 of them since he has 2 aim tokens, and he could spend both. Gets a hit. So this, I'm not sure if it's legal. It looks like he's rerolling a reroll. I'm not sure if that's allowed with 2 aim tokens, but I'm not sure why it wouldn't be. It doesn't matter. Only 4 hits. All right. The Rebels need to make at least 2 saves to keep this squad leader on the objective. If that squad leader stays alive on the objective, that's going to mean that next turn they can use it again. All he needs is to make at least 2 saves. Can he do it? No, all saves fail. The rebel squad is wiped. Okay, so right now the rebels are winning with 1 point. But next turn, these guys can probably move up and score a point. Oh, man. This is really, really getting close here. Leia still has yet to activate, so what she should probably do is run out into the open and shoot these... Yeah, so Leia should run out into the open and shoot these troopers. So let's see here. This is kind of an unusual way for the game to develop because the rebels typically have better firepower and worse defense than the Empire, but in this case we saw the rebel firepower not necessarily being used as efficiently as it could have been. Leia has 1 suppression on her, I believe, so let's see if she clears it. She actually doesn't want to clear it because 1 suppression gives her cover. She doesn't clear it, that was lucky. She does still get 2 actions because she has courage too. So she's going to probably move up and then shoot. She is in range. Oh, she could aim and shoot. I think she should move and shoot, though, because that might put her in a position to move up and touch the objective next turn. Looks like she's just shooting. Oh, man, does this guy think that she's suppressed? She's not suppressed. She only has 1 counter, but courage 2. But it looks like he's just taking the shot, which I think means that he doesn't realize she actually has 2 actions. All right, well, 3 shots being taken, no aim because he's forgotten or something. He gets 2 crits. So that's going to be 2 red dice, and there is also a pierce on here. So both saves pass, which means only 1 trooper will go down. They will take a suppression as well, but not what he was probably hoping for. So it looks like maybe they've realized the actions. Maybe she's gonna move after shooting. I think she has to move. I think she has to move up. Percy, I think she has to move up. She's doing it. I don't think she has enough movement to actually touch the objective with her next. Oh, but you know what she can do? No, she's got to run right for them, and then if she activates first, she can move twice and get into hand-to-hand combat with them, and that will prevent them from doing the objective. But she actually moves over here. I think that's just wrong. I don't know why you would ever move here. If you were going to move there, it would be better to stay where you were. So, not sure what's going on there. Alright, just that last suppressed Imperial over there. I do think the Imperials are going to take this, but it is a little close here. Alright, so with only 1 move, he gets in contact with the objective. He's still suppressed. He gets in contact with the objective, but he can't clear it this turn because he's still suppressed, which does mean this trooper is going to have an opportunity to shoot him down next turn before he does the objective. I do think that Leia's move here is incorrect, and it might give the Imperials the chance to win. If Imperials tie this, they win. So the thing is, let's say this guy activates before him and shoots that guy and kills him. The problem is these guys can then move and use this objective, and that puts it at a tie, and a tie is a win for the Empire. And for that reason, I think that the Rebels needed to run Leia towards this objective. 2 pushes. Who will go first? I don't think it matters, though. I think what we're going to see is either this one or this one gets sabotaged again by the Empire. That puts us into a spot where they're tied, and with a tie, that does mean that the Empire will win on points with the tiebreaker. But this game did come down to the wire in a way that we might not have expected from early on. Yeah, if either player makes an error here, they could lose the game for sure. But I think at this point, they've got to be objective focused. All right, so let's see what happens here. Who will win? So let's see. These fleets could get really lucky and wipe these guys, but it seems unlikely. However, oh man, all they have to do is suppress those guys, and the guys can't move on to the objective. This is the problem. Is though this guy over here can do the objective. Let's see here. All right, so it looks like the ATST is activating here to try to kill this guy before he gets. Yeah, it's gonna try to kill that guy before he gets a shot. 6 saves being rolled, and of course the guy wipes. So that's gonna be this guy down. That does mean this trooper will be able to sabotage that objective. So now man, yeah, I think that's gonna be the game. Even if the rebels stop these guys. Yeah, even if the rebels stop these guys, it's gonna be a tie game, and a tie game goes to the Empire. Ties don't go to the Empire as a general rule. Ties go to the Empire here because the Empire has inflicted more damage than the rebels have. This squad's not going to be in range for to move up. They need to aim and shoot these guys and try to clear them, I think. But I think it's a lost cause at this point because one way or another the Empire is going to tie up the points here, and tying up the points is going to be all they need to do in order to win on the tiebreaker. But margin of victory still matters, so probably if the rebels can wipe out or suppress those stormtroopers, that will still be very significant. Looks very weak roll for the rebels. Only 3 results on those troopers. They have to roll 3 saves. Yeah, 3 saves, and the first success is ignored thanks to Pierce. The 3 saves result in 1 success, which is ignored. So three troopers are killed here, leaving just the squad leader and the heavy weapon. More importantly, they're suppressed. He would have had to roll very lucky to wipe the whole squad. He did not do that. But he did manage to suppress them, and that might prevent them from moving and claiming the objective. The other question is Veers in range to move up and use the objective? The Imperial player wants to win by as many points as possible thanks to margin of victory. Interestingly, it might have been a mistake to shoot the snowtroopers here. Even though that was a bigger squad, I think it would have been better for these guys to shoot those guys since the snowtroopers were not in range to get to that objective and these guys were. If there were still some snowtroopers and they had made it to about here, they wouldn't be in range to get the objective, and even though they would have killed these guys faster, stopping those guys would have maybe prevented this from being resolved. Let's see if the stormtroopers can clear their one suppression. Alright, they have a 1/3 chance to clear this suppression. They don't do it. They're going to be unable to take the objective. So these troopers kind of have nothing to do. They're firing at Leia out of spite or something. They get 2 hits. She has to roll 2 white defense dice, but she's unwounded right now. So yeah, this doesn't matter. Even if both wound her, she has 4 more wounds. Even if she dies this turn, it's all about this objective here. And so these troopers have failed. Also, he totally should have moved over here and fired the artillery strike from Leia on those troops. If that managed to pick off a guy, that's also a win. So I think early on, we saw a mistake by the Rebel player put him into a very disadvantaged situation in forces, but in general, he made better plays for the objectives, putting the Imperial player into kind of a desperate spot. If the Rebel player had played slightly better, either prioritizing this squad over the snowtroopers, or maybe using the artillery from Leia, having her move back and fire there, either of those moves could have put the Rebel player into a position where this guy doesn't make it, and with these guys stopped here, that might be the game. However, we'll have to see. Alright, looks like Leia's just taking some spiteful shots at those stormtroopers. See if she can wipe them out. They have cover, but she ignores it. So they took some spiteful shots at her. She's taking some spiteful shots at them. And she gets all 3 hits. That's going to be 3 rolls, and the Imperial player has to pass all 3 of them to live thanks to Pierce. Let's see if he can do it. Nope, there's 1 surge and 2 successes. Pierce gets through and finishes off those stormtroopers. So the stormtroopers wiped completely there, and we really do see, both sides taking huge losses. Rebels just have 1 fleet trooper squad and Leia. Imperials have their ATSTs still up, but in terms of troops, they have a single trooper and Veers. Alright, so this objective has been repaired once. This objective, because those fleet troopers failed their mission, this objective now gets wounded, so now we're at a tie on objectives. The question is whether or not Veers can move in and sabotage this one as well. If so, the Imperial player will win with 1 point, and if not, it will be a 0-0 tie, but the Imperial will win on tiebreak. So the Imperials have won the game, but the question is just going to be whether or not Veers can get in to totally put it in the bag and get that extra point for margin of victory in the league standings. Very interesting game here, very interesting game. And can Veers make it? Can he make it? Let's see. Will he get his base in contact with that objective? It's coming right down to it. I know it's just a margin of victory point, but even still. Will he make it? No! Veers does not make it, and that means that it's going to be a draw, which means that the Imperials will win on the tiebreak. As we can see here, at the end of the game, the blue player gains 1 victory token for each wound token over 2 on each objective token. So the blue player is the Empire, and they have 2 points here, 1 point there, that's 3. The Rebels have 2 points here, 1 point there, that's 3. 3-3 tie, Rebels win on victory points. That's going to be the game. All right, so that's we're just seeing a last move here, which has no import. This has no import on the game itself, but it's going to be kind of another spiteful move. I guess we're just going to see if the ATST can blow up some of the rebels. Yeah, so it looks like it's going to focus its weapons on the rebel troopers here, I guess. It doesn't really matter who he chooses. The game is over, but let's see if he can kill them. So let's see here. Looks like, is that going to be 6 saves for those rebel troopers? 8 saves for those rebel troopers now. Wow, 8 saves. They're going to die. They're gone. The rebel troopers are wiped out. So Leia is the only rebel survivor. While the rebels did manage to tie on objectives, the Empire has clearly killed more points. And because the Empire has cleared more points, that is going to be a victory for the Empire. Very interesting game. We did see the airspeeders kind of misused here. We did see the ATSTs going unkilled, but the Rebels made a better game of it with their infantry and managed to make this game a lot closer than it should have been. So that's going to be a draw on victory points, with Rebels getting 2 points here and 1 point here. Imperials get 2 points here and 1 point here. That's also 3 points. So 3 points to 3 points tie. When the game ties, it goes to the number of points of your opponent's units you've killed, just the army building points. These ATSTs, over half the Imperial force is still alive against only Leia. So the Imperial player scores a resounding win on army building points killed, and that's going to mean that they win, though with no margin of victory for the League. So congratulations to Copes for his victory here over Beaster. A very interesting game and a lot closer than I was thinking based on the initial turns. All right. That's going to... this is going to do it. This is going to do it for this broadcast here. The Imperial player manages to pull off a win by killing more stuff. And we are actually going to be right back. There's going to be another game with Talk Polite, actually one of the League organizers, versus Stabcast Ryan. And so I'm going to be broadcasting that game as well, but I'm going to take just a brief break here, grab some food, and I'll be coming back with more Star Wars Legion broadcasts shortly. Thanks for watching, guys, and I will see some of you in a few minutes.